stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do you guys have anything you'd like to say for public discussion, or are you here for the agenda?
I just wanted to kind of get an update on where that lawsuit's going.
Okay, yep, we'll talk about that here a little later on, so. Don't see anyone else for public discussion, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda and minutes.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have motion and second on the floor, is there any discussion on the agenda, minutes, any corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Next up is the claims and conservation claims in your packet. Is there any motion in regard to the claims?
I'll move to approve.
Okay. Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay.
Nay, because there's a cell phone charge on there, I voted against it originally, so I voted against it again.
Okay, next up is a handwritten claim. This is for Sheriff's Office in Minnesota for civil service. Any questions about that? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second
Okay. Any discussion on the claim? All those in favor say aye.
it. Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Yep, thank you. Dan, we are up to you for your update here.
Okay. Well, good morning. I sent this out here before the storm because I didn't know what that was gonna look like. Did everybody get a chance? Did they receive it? There's quite a bit of stuff there. So my roll-up, for December, I had 21 phone calls, 83 messages, 36 walk-ins, 23 appointments. We transported 3 veterans. We had 7 hearing aids repaired. I'm tracking 1,194 records in my system. I've currently got 46 active claims in the system that I'm monitoring with VA. 4 of those are ready for decision. 21 I have laying in my office under development. I've got 1 supplemental claim in appeal, and I also had 1 VA healthcare enrollment. Last week I had to get my paperwork in and get reserved for the national training in Denver, Colorado. That's going to actually be in May this year as opposed to June of all the other years. So I'm reserved for my national training here upcoming in May. Still working on my department policy and procedures SOP update. Hopefully we'll have that completed here this month. Need to follow up with county binders. I'm working with Mr. Maury to try and get some additional grave records scanned and archived onto our server, so we preserve those grave records for the county. And then there is a records of soldiers in the war from Kossuth County. Kind of covers Civil War, World War I, and World War II. So I kind of want to get an estimate on that and see what that would cost to preserve that book as well. Snapshot for completed claims for December. Roughly the monthly awards for December was right at about $6,000 with retroactive benefits of a little over $15,000. And then, year-to-date monthly awards, $54,798. The burial service connected and non-service connected, I adjusted those due to an error in one of the report formats that I had. So I was able to correct that, but that's spelled out there for you. And then with my brief, I gave you a copy of the monthly metrics out of my office for the year. And so items A through R are just kind of some of the things that I tracked. Overall metrics that I kept track of. Had a total of 546 calls received, 824 messages, 628 walk-ins, 301 scheduled appointments. It completed 1,040 VA forms at that point. For the year, we had 22 healthcare enrollments, transported 24 veterans, was able to get 68 hearing aids repaired, and funeral honors conducted with 6. And then of course you can see the rest of the information there. With mail outs, I had 279. And then the key takeaways on page 2, items 3 through 10. I also had received the quarterly report from the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs in Des Moines. So that second attachment is kind of the key takeaways and the synopsis out of there. Now that was a 42-page document and I cut it down to 2 pages. So I had to kind of really pick through there. But the key things that I had highlighted there was the PAC Act updates. Our regional office is dealing with about 180 screenings per week, and had 230,000 unique veterans screened since the program began. Had some interesting information on updates from the Iowa National Guard. Some of this would stem from the condition of the Guard address that General Osborne gave to the Iowa body. Currently still have 9,000 members strong. They're at 99.5% strength. They've got a retention rate of 86, meaning they're able to keep 86% of those folks that are due to get out to stay in. The next 3 years are going to be challenging. I do know that with the Iowa National Guard and its assets, they're probably coming up on the patch chart with National Guard Bureau being looked at federally for world contingency missions and deployments and mobilizations. So I'm sure, Josh, you're kind of familiar with a little bit of that. And of course, our current world situation strategically with some of the other foreign nations could be a lot better. So there might be something to that. Not going to add to it, don't really know. Wanted to add some of the legislative priorities. One was to get the definition of a veteran to more closely align with the federal definition, which will actually help veterans overall in determining veterans benefits. There's kind of a mishmash of what defines a veteran. It gets very confusing. The state isn't quite nested with the federal definition, and it makes it really difficult to work some of those issues. Also property tax relief, and then of course veterans treatment courts. So the last thing they had on there was, I know our state association is working with the legislature on making sure that at least 3,000 of the 10,000K grant that we receive every year that I apply for gets dedicated for education and training. And so they're seeking to continue that by specifying it. Whether that gets wrote into the code or not, we'll see. But that's kind of what went on as far as the month of December and kind of the rollout for the year. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
Sounds good, appreciate the info.
Alrighty,
Any
thank you.
questions from you?
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Right, Nick, you are up for the semi-annual report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna I think you all got a copy of the semi-annual report for time period July 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2023. there's the different columns there. The first one is the name of the fund. The second column will be the beginning balance as of July 1st, 2023. And third column, we would have the revenues. We've had revenues of, in the last 6 months, $42,969,566.97, and then the total to be accounted for. And then we did disbursements. We had disbursements of $42,589,669.12 for an ending balance of $24,059,750.76. And the last column would be the outstanding warrants in each one of the funds, if there were outstanding warrants, auditors warrants. So any questions on that so far? Okay. And then it goes on with the revenues. It kind of breaks them out. And I know we've been over this. There's too many to go through individually. If you had any questions on any of the revenues, and it lists all those, and then it'll go on to the expenses. And like I said, there's a lot of those to go through, every one individually. If there would be any questions anyone would have on any of that stuff.
So for a mobile home tax, what is that? Being there's only $110, there's obviously several mobile homes in the county, so what classifies them as being taxed versus?
We have one mobile home, well, that is being taxed.
Okay, so there's only one, okay.
Because a mobile home, to make it a mobile home, it has to be in a mobile home park.
Okay,
And, I mean, you see them out.
that's what I wondered how that.
Right, you see them out in the country, but they were transferred to real estate several years ago.
Okay.
And to have, we're collecting on one mobile home. There's like 4 or 5 of them,
Okay,
and they're not livable.
no,
So,
yeah, okay, I was just curious.
You bet.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. You need to prove it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would entertain, if there's no further questions or discussions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the semi-annual report. Roger? Do we have a second?
Second.
Carter, thanks. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Next up is, action on closing the courthouse. Donna?
Yep, this fall we talked about doing a safety training day and things kind of changed. So I've coordinated and talked to the clerk of court and then followed up with the deputies for doing a safety training. Historically, we have closed the courthouse when we've done the full training. And that's what we're kind of requesting on the 29th of February. In addition, our handbook says it will offer annual harassment training, so Todd has offered to do that. We have someone that could do a little bit on bloodborne pathogens. We have had a trooper scheduled, who was scheduled last fall to do seatbelt safety training, just a reminder to wear a seatbelt, nothing new, but encouraging that. Workman's Comp is asking that we promote that. And then we thought this would also be a good opportunity to just have a group meeting to review some of the security changes that have been done so that everybody hears it from the same source. So we are asking that that be granted. If you're still interested, I think.
Good, Nick.
Can I make a comment on this?
Mhm.
The 29th of February is the last day of the month, and I know our office, we do have deadlines that day for people to come in and renew their motor vehicle. That's more so than anything. renew their motor vehicle tags or what have you, and things like that. And typically the last day of the month, it is a pretty busy day in our office. So, I mean, I know it's tough, but to find days to do these things, but I am concerned about that.
And you're gonna miss March, or just skip March, and then we're going into election season, so we've had some of those discussions. Those were, I think the only other date was, I think, February 21st. That the clerk of court was okay, but I heard from Jake and he said the 29th, so that's what I went with, because both the clerk of court was saying that, so. It's like planning, there's gonna be something always, so I don't know how we're gonna come up with a date.
Well,
I think if you stick with the 29th and just publish, as much information as you can, whether it be on the website or Facebook or anywhere that will be closed that day, so that way if anybody needs to do their registration stuff, that they have.
you can publish that, but there's a lot of people that aren't gonna notice
Right.
that, and they're not gonna,
They're gonna be pulling.
I mean, I'd be concerned about that. You're gonna have a lot of people coming here that are gonna walk up to a door that's closed, and
Yeah.
that's not gonna be a good
Yeah.
situation.
I think so too.
I
Hate to be that way, but.
I don't think the 29th is probably a great option for that reason. Did the 21st work for
I
us?
only got a response back to the 29th, and that was what the majority of the trainers were saying, but again, I know that there's a lot of factors. I can go back to the table. I'm going to say that our concern is gonna be, we've gotta get that out to people too, to know what date also, so.
Yeah, but I mean, we're still talking a month away right now at least. I don't know. I would think we'd be better to check the 21st or another date even later on if needed, rather than the 29th
You
right
don't know
now.
anything, but probably, let's put you on the spot.
I don't know Jake's schedule offhand, but I can tell you that if you do end up going that day, I'll make sure he's off. If I gotta cover his shift the night before, I will, just to make sure he's available. But I know he has 2 or 3 other trainers that will come with him.
Yes, he
So
did.
it's whether or not their schedules are free, so.
Yeah, he sent out the email to them, so that was, contingent.
We'll work with however we can make it work, so.
I can double check. I guess, are you okay with that plan, or do you need more information? Or,
Is there any other concerns for the 21st besides coordinating schedules, I guess?
What day of the week is that on?
that's a
It's a
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
I can check with
Okay.
them and see what we can do, but
Okay.
I just wanted you to kind of have an idea. Do you want me to come back when it's official for the 21st?
I mean, we could make a motion now, but then if something changes and we have a motion that we gotta go back and address anyway, so
Okay.
probably would be best
Just
to
let
just
you
come
know.
back
A
when we
confirmed date.
know for sure.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.
Donna.
Alright, we'll hold off on that till we know a little more. Next is discussing the holiday list.
Do we wanna call Doug, cause I know he
yeah.
had questions last
Yep.
week. That way with everybody's
Yep.
on the same page.
Yep, and that was what I was gonna say, it was just. brought
Yeah,
up
morning
that
Doug, we're up to the
conversation.
holiday list here. Alright, sounds good, bye.
Was Willie coming in for this?
I don't know, is he needed to be in for this?
He stopped in after our conversation last week. Had a few thoughts to share, but I think he said he was gonna come in at that point in time,
I can text him,
just for the union and everything. Or
but there isn't
the,
any,
the bargaining unit, I meant. Yeah.
there isn't a bargaining unit.
Didn't they, or did they not? They didn't finish the paperwork on that, that's right.
Nope.
Well, regardless of that, he had some thoughts, I know that.
When it says surrounding county, excuse me, surrounding counties full day Monday through Friday, does that mean they have the whole week off kind of thing? Or is
No,
it-
that means that if it falls on a Monday through
Oh.
Friday, they get Monday through Friday, they don't
Okay.
get it, if it falls on a Friday, a Saturday, they don't get Friday.
Okay, okay,
Or no.
Morning.
I see.
So, I put in your workbooks, I did do some research, Melissa had said that she had sent you an email saying that she was incorrect about us getting the days off, so we put together over the last 10 years when we have had holidays off, a full day or a half day, and you can see in your packets that we've gotten at least a half day during the week, if it's fallen. Then I did call all of the bordering counties, and all bordering counties have the full day off on Christmas Eve day, so I just wanted to put that in your packet so you were aware of that.
Yep,
With the exception that Emmett only has Christmas Eve off if it falls
on a Monday.
on a
through-
Monday or a Friday.
Monday through Friday, any day of the week, they
Oh,
get it off.
sure.
If
Yeah.
if it's if it's a Sunday and Christmas Eve is a Monday, they would just have Monday off, right?
Correct.
Because the
Yeah.
Christmas Eve would be on a
So,
weekend.
so most of the time, if a holiday falls on the weekend, you get the Friday off. If it's on a Saturday, you get the Friday off, if it's a Sunday, you get the Monday off. They don't do that in Emmett County. If it's on the weekday, they get it off. They don't get the extra day if it falls on the
Okay.
weekend. That's what that means.
Sure.
Okay. Well, is there anyone that wants to share anything on this?
Why was there an all-day Christmas Eve holiday in 2018 and then half day and then no holiday is there a reason why there was?
That's how they voted, I
Change it.
guess,
Okay.
and I don't know.
Roger, did you have anything you wanna say? I know last week you had said we hadn't given it off before, but we have, so I don't know if you have any further thoughts.
We had a half day on before,
There's a full day in 2018 as well.
on a Monday.
On Monday and then full day on a Friday.
Well, that's because
Christmas.
Christmas was on a Saturday, so
Right,
we
right.
get Friday off regardless.
Yeah,
Yep.
or Doug, anything further you wanted to say besides your comments last week?
Well, my question is this applicable to the road department? The road department's collective bargaining agreement has holidays listed. And I guess that's my question.
Or is it something we revisit looking at when the collective bargaining for the road department is over and an entire change can be made at that time? If that was the desire of the board.
Well, that would have been the same. I would imagine that same issue would have been the case for the previous holidays over the course of history. So,
I mean, how does that work with the unit?
I think
It always brings up a question.
that's the agreement they agree to as a group,
Right.
and the board agrees to with them, so.
Right.
What does that statement mean, I guess?
I was just saying that's the function of the bargaining agreement, that's what they operate off of.
Are you aware of what the employee handbook states
In what regard?
for holidays?
The list that's in there?
Yes.
It does not include Christmas Eve.
No, it never has for all these other ones, it's not been updated, it's in the process of being
Yeah.
updated, so.
Willie?
When I was part of the union and stuff, the handbook is a guideline, we go by it. If you go above and beyond that, it don't affect the handbook. Just like the holiday list. We're giving these holidays, if you go above and beyond it, as long as we get what you put out there, that's null and void.
You got some thoughts, Roger?
Yeah, all kinds of thoughts. You voted on it last week, so why are you bringing it back up, except for the road department should be the only discussion.
Well, the list of holidays applies for more than just one department, so that's why it's being discussed. It's open for discussion or motion in any regard, whether it's to apply that to the secondary road department or change the holiday list or whatever.
So is what you're saying, when we voted on the holiday list the first of the year, that then doesn't apply to the road department, or?
Depends on the will of the board, but at that time, I don't think it was specified.
Is the secondary road not part of the county?
They have a contract, a
They have-
union
Right,
contract.
but you're following their contract, you're adding to it. I don't think anybody in that union is gonna complain if you give them another day off.
I guess I'll say again, I'd entertain any motion or further discussion on this topic.
So I make a motion to leave the decision as we made it applying to all county departments.
Okay, we have anything further?
If that clarifies things,
It's a yes or no question, does this apply to the secondary road department?
in my mind, yes, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Does the whole board agree on that?
we have a motion on the floor. I will ask for a second to
I'll
that motion.
second.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Can I read the motion to make sure it's correct?
Yes, that would be good.
Motion by Nath and second by Wactor to leave the holiday list as approved, as previously approved, including all departments. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Roll call
Sorry.
vote whenever you're ready.
Plath,
Yes.
Jerks,
No.
Wactor,
Yes.
Nath,
Yes.
Stecker.
Yes. Does that answer your question, Doug?
No, it doesn't, we'll have to, I will call up Renee and we'll have the board specifically address the collective bargaining unit, I believe that's what needs to be taken care of. But since it does appear that the board is intending this to be for the secondary road department, that'll allow me to go further.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Alright, next up is the discussion on a solar ordinance.
Did anyone have a chance to review what Doug had submitted to us as far as surrounding county, or not surrounding, but other county ordinances across the state? This was back in November. I gotta find the meeting again. I think it was, yep, 28th, November 28th. Gonna open that board packet. That's for 2023, November 28th.
Yeah,
Board meetings.
I saved the folder to my
Okay.
OneDrive, so. Is there any in particular you wanna start with?
The two that I was looking at in particular were, I read through all of them, but the Lynn County and Greene County, just upon reading through them, or overviewing them, that's what I was most impressed with, I guess. But I don't think they're real strong on drainage districts. I don't think any of them were. I think that's where we need to be looking at most of all. I don't know, did any of the rest of you guys read through them or have any thoughts?
Comment on drainage districts, you're gonna have to go back to our drainage ordinance.
The right-of-way
and
policy
right-of-way
and
policy
procedure,
and
but I think,
exempt that in that ordinance, not in this.
well, not exempting it,
Well, except,
you would incorporate it,
well,
but
you're gonna have to exempt any building over the top of the drainage facilities.
why would we want to exempt that?
Well, you're gonna have to include not to do it, all right?
Not to build on top of drainage district.
Yeah, you would specify,
But you're gonna have to figure out how many feet and everything else in your drainage ordinance.
Feet from the district or from
From
the tile, I mean, yeah.
from tile, from
And if
ditches,
you're gonna
from,
locate the tile before and everything else, you're gonna have to specify all that.
mm,
And that's what I'm saying.
Which
there's not
that's-
a lot of,
a lot of that was built in with the wind turbines, so it was the locating and engineering involved, the permits that were tied in with that, I think specifying setback distances from district facilities would be the majority of what would be left to do. But otherwise, I didn't have a lot of time to work on that this last week, but anyone else have any thoughts or highlights to share? Otherwise, we can always come back to this and dig a little more if we have more time, since we'll be here this afternoon. We have other things we can,
well, if you guys wanna read through those two and see what you think, and then we can have further discussion.
okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Any other thoughts or comments for now? Otherwise, we can keep rolling and come back if needed.
Okay.
Alright, next up is Summit Carbon Solutions lawsuit versus Kossuth County. Just brief synopsis, we all received this last week, correct?
The state, I think that's stamped on the bottom.
Received January 8th, 2024. Case title and stuff is on the agenda. So I briefly called and asked some questions about this, but we would have to refer this to our insurance company, send it to them, and they would assign an attorney to handle it for the other cases that are similar. ICAP has chosen Pollard and Cooney since they've prepared all the documents and stuff, but it's not our decision to make. So decision for today would be to send this to our insurance or anything else along the lines of the ordinance, but with our budget conversations and stuff, there's several things to take into account there, so. Anyone have any thoughts, questions, comments at this point?
I think this was an expected happening to a point, and that's.
Still have to address it. but-
Yep, but yeah, it'd be my stance or from what we had previously discussed, to send it on to insurance and let them handle that.
Any further thoughts, comments?
It's
Otherwise-
unfortunate that we can't have conversations with them before all this, but.
If there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion to direct the auditor's office to send this to our insurance, to ICAP.
I'd make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
any discussion on the motion? Got all that? Got all your notes?
I think so.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carried unanimous. Next up is construction in the right of way. Doug?
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
We do have one request for construction within the road right of way. Quite a large area, Interstate Power and Light Energy is inspecting some lines and doing some maintenance to increase the life of their utility infrastructure. So there is a motion to allow this work. It's all listed there. And I would recommend the board would go ahead and approve of the maintenance work requested by Interstate Power and Light.
I would entertain a motion to approve the request for construction in the right of way. Roger, and I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
Signature please, right on the bottom.
Need Tammy or just?
No, just you. Thank you.
Thanks. And that's it for construction?
That is.
Okay.
Just to bring you up to date on the snow removal operation, our big thank you to our road department. Worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then again yesterday. Yesterday is a floating holiday by the agreement, collective bargaining unit. The men do work, even though county employees receive the Martin Luther King holiday. The men then will take that holiday on the day that they wish, 8 hours of time. But Saturday they came in, worked. We did get over gravel roads Saturday. Wind came back up, filled in the roads. Sunday we ended up going out and getting both pavements and gravels cleaned off. Yesterday we were cleaning. We still have some roads that are plugged, but I told the foreman not to have guys working on them during the weekend. These roads that are plugged do not have people living on them. And sometimes, some instances, we even close them during bad winters. But we will get things cleaned up here in the next couple of days, and hopefully it's cold weather. The snow equipment, snow removal is difficult on that, challenging. Hopefully everything will continue to run. Michelle Moon postponed Wellmark today, so we will not receive that, but we are planning next week at 11 o'clock. We did not get any nighttime sign inventory completed last week, and I don't think we will get it this week either with the cold temperatures. So we still have a couple of nights that will go on. The construction down on the Gunter Bridge, that has stopped for the rest of the winter. And advertising for some open positions, still looking for a position in Lakota and 2 positions in the mechanic shop. And that is everything that I have.
Any questions from the board? Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Doug.
Alright, do we know when John is gonna be here, is that?
Let me go ask Marge if that's okay, if she
Yep.
knows.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay.
Yours is mobile.
Yeah, that's always blocking visibility.
Morning, Nancy.
Roger, you have anything else for us?
No, I wanted to get over here during your claims, but I didn't get over in time.
Oh, no, that's
So
fine.
to answer your question, Kyle, it is not a reduced rate, it's $55 a day.
Okay,
A few weeks ago, I think I mentioned to you guys that Hamilton County was giving us a pass on the cost of holding an inmate. And the sheriff down there informed me about a week ago that that pass is no longer gonna be in existence. They gave us 3 months for free. So we are turning our first claim now that we're paying them for housing an inmate. And I'll reevaluate that to determine if it's justifiable to bring that inmate back here. We're gonna have some staff issues, I'm afraid. So we gotta make that decision on whether or not we wanna, it's about $1,600 a month is what it's gonna cost us to house an inmate there, but.
I was just curious,
Yeah,
so.
but
that's
I
fine.
thought it was a reduced rate, but I was corrected this morning, it's not.
That's alright.
And regardless, just so you guys know, we are responsible for all costs anyway, as far as medical costs or anything else that happens anyway, but.
Yep,
So just wanted to update you on that.
sounds good, thanks.
Roger.
You bet.
Did you find out anything from Marge?
She said she didn't think he's gonna be here till 9:30, so she was gonna come in and we could do drainage repair requests.
Okay,
If you guys were okay with that.
yep. We might have a little bit of extra time here this morning with Walmart not coming and,
Zooms up to 1.
yep.
Give you time to read a solar ordinance.
A couple maybe.
Yeah,
To talk some budgets.
they didn't talk some budget stuff,
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm sure we'll be able to use the time.
So I found out some good information about budget this morning.
Oh, good.
Good deal. Morning, Marge.
Good morning.
We are ready for repair requests whenever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger,
Roger, feel free.
Yeah, I got number 10 is on drain 63, it's a broken tile, needs repaired. Oh, it says Zach Lubenthal repaired it already
Yep,
in Bradley.
yeah, he had called Zach, directly, and Zach had asked me about it, and I spaced off the territory difference, cause it was kinda close to the line there, but, it was just a small washout, so it's done already. Carter?
I just got 2 beaver dams north of Laverne, a couple hundred feet from each other. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Mine are a couple washouts, 11 and 12, they're both already done as well, so. Any questions from the board? Otherwise I'd entertain motion to direct the supervisors to take care of their repair requests.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion carried unanimous.
I'm not gonna sign the contract terms yet.
Gonna be a while anyway.
Yeah. Alright, March, yours back. And we'll wait for the report from John when he gets here. Anything else drainage wise while Marge is here?
Not much this week.
A little chilly for tile. Otherwise, I think we can move on to auditor discussion.
Okay, I did email, I can't remember her name right now. Myrtle
Myrtle.
Nelson from NICOG, asking, what they needed, to fill, what kind of person they're looking for to fill Marine's position. And I did forward that email to you, so you get a better idea of what qualifications they were looking for. In her email, she said it did not or should not be a county representative or somebody in government. So I thought that might help you guys in trying to nominate somebody. Didn't know if you had come up with anybody or not. But wanted to bring that to your attention. Maybe that could clarify things a little bit better.
Business owners, business executives. Okay. Sounds good. Has anyone found any ideas? Otherwise,
I did email her the list of our other changes for NICOG, and she said as soon as you guys had appointed somebody to let her know.
Okay.
And then they can go forward
Yep.
with that, so.
sounds good.
Somebody did ask how often they meet, and it is quarterly, so. Except for September and November they meet, so. It's 5 times a year, it looks like. And then, I did get a certificate of property insurance from Bob Becker Construction for the Algona splash pad equipment, so I didn't know if you
But I
guys
gave
needed
you
to see that, or,
That's,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I presented in the boardroom last week.
yeah, oh, you did, okay.
Yeah.
So, just wanted to
Yeah.
bring that to your attention. And that's,
And you talked to Todd on an agreement or something for that?
I did talk to Todd. It went down right away, and he was gonna use a similar one that we had before. I haven't heard from him though.
Okay. I can check on that. Anything else you have?
that's it.
Okay. Jack, board reports or anything?
No, we had, Last week.
Okay. Roger?
Nothing much, Lee.
Josh, did you have any, or looking for papers there?
I had, North Central Regional Response, at the planning commission meeting, re-elected officers, stuck with the same officers as before. Trying to get the names here, hand out a lot of papers. Chris Olson was reelected to be the chairman. Just kind of went over financial reports, discussed some new items, working on getting some equipment for our region. Can't remember exactly what the equipment was called, but it was a pretty, it's a ramen meter. Deals with radiation and stuff like that, radiation detection, as well as some other testing stuff for mercury and things like that from the hazmat team over there. So just kind of went over some of that stuff, and then we also had a policy board meeting, transportation policy. Just kind of got an update on projects and funding for the different projects that are kind of going on in the area. They had a big project that they were discussing over by Clear Lake. I guess they're trying to complete their bicycle path that goes from Mason City all the way into Clear Lake, because I guess it stops at the interstate there. So that was a big thing that they were doing, was they're trying to get that completed. Looking for other projects for like trails or potential for bicycle paths and things like that. So got some discussion items there. Might be working with Jake. He's the city administrator. He's there for the transportation policy board as well. So may coordinate with him and start coming up with some ideas for our area for improvements and stuff. So.
Okay.
Other than that, we had the conference board meeting, which I was a little late to because of the weather kind of slowed me down getting back from Mason City. And then we had our hazard mitigation plan meeting at 6 o'clock last Tuesday night, kind of get some more updates on the works on our areas and things that we need to look for. Basically looking for any type of mitigation that we can do to help prevent, major disasters being financially burden on us if anything ever happens. So.
Okay. At your emergency or hazard mitigation group, was there any discussion on the CO2 pipelines or anything in that regard?
No, there was no discussion on that. So basically what they're doing right now is they're kind of in the information gathering, and so basically we as, different portions of the county, because we've got mayors and they're, the fire chiefs, some of the fire chiefs are there, and just kind of go through county profile and just lay down, what our big hazards, are that we're, 3 top major disasters that we got to plan for and kind of create, mitigation plans for those. I think it did get brought up, but I don't know that it was at the top of the list for a lot of areas, so.
Gotcha.
Sure there is some opportunities there for the mitigation.
So probably something we would have needed to bring up and discuss in that regard.
Yes.
Okay. Sounds good. Carter, anything?
The only meeting I attended last week was conference board meeting, hired a new assessor, Chris, and looking forward to that. Also, probably my biggest thing though, is the governor introduced a bill this past week and the legislature, it's the governor's bill, or she's pushing it, and there's gonna be some pretty major changes to mental health districts again. In a year's time, Care Connections will probably no longer exist, unfortunately. So they are changing it to behavioral health districts, and that would put, whereas right now we're Kossuth, Winnebago, Worth is in with Palo Alto, Clay, and Osceola for Care Connections. This would change it to where we would be absorbed into most of what is already a region. So the three of Kossuth, Winnebago, Worth, Mitchell, Hancock, Cerro Gordo, Floyd, Humboldt, Wright, Franklin, Webster, Hamilton, Hardin, Greene, Boone, Story, and Marshall would all be one large region. And so the challenge is that currently Anna, who serves Kossuth County, she lives in Palo Alto County, and I know Melissa is working on trying to figure out how that's going to work with staff and making sure all of her people still have jobs by the end of it, and where they're going to go, where they'll be placed, and how that's going to look, and her own job. So but she's done a fantastic job just from what I've seen and heard from people around the state, and yeah, it's disappointing, but
What's the point of this bill?
they're combining a lot of mental health and behavioral health services into the same regions.
But why?
I don't know all the answers to
Okay,
that at
okay,
the moment, and we're gonna have
I'm just curious
we're having our Care
why.
Connections meeting next Tuesday,
Okay,
and so I'm sure she'll fill us in on a lot more of those details. But just so you are all aware, that board is going to change just because Care Connections will be.
I did talk to one legislator and he says because we can.
so is that?
That
some-
was,
That is something that will possibly be passed here,
Very
be
soon,
effective July 1st.
and
Because
yeah.
we're working on budgets for them,
Yeah.
so I just
Yeah.
curious as how that will affect that.
well, Melissa said she could fight it, but she's not going to spend time and energy fighting it, nor are the other regions, just because it's the governor pushing it and the legislature's all on board with it.
Okay.
They're not gonna waste their time.
Okay.
So that's what's gonna happen.
well, I took out of it, the state is funding it so the state can control it.
Correct.
That's what
Correct.
my simple explanation of what's
It's not going to
on.
be the same
Yeah.
setup as way the regions are now. They're going away from the regions.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's gonna be state controlled, not county controlled. More.
Yes, yes. I would assume there'd still be someone from our board, well, say I would go sit on that new board or whatever they decide to.
Probably
Might-
similar to.
Might be
what
like
happened-
judicial
Yeah.
because they took control over on that, and I would guess it'll be a
Advisory court after that.
advisory, just,
So,
I don't know, yeah.
so yeah, I guess I'll be able to share more on that probably after next week, but, that's what's going on.
Because they can.
Because they can. Republicans and small government, right?
No,
You know what the cure for Republicans in Des Moines is? More Republicans.
some of them might need a reminder. But, yeah, anything else you had there, Carter?
Nope, that was all I had.
Right, yeah, same conference board I had last week. Tomorrow and Thursday is ISAC University. Is anyone else planning on going to that? I am.
Next week is what?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Tomorrow and Thursday is ISAC University.
No, that's not planned.
So that's what I have coming up, I guess. Otherwise, yeah, I think everything else has kind of been touched on and stuff, so I think that's most what I have for now. Well,
We take
do
a
we?
break for a little bit.
Yeah, probably. Do we wanna do a certain time for a break or whatever? We can kinda use the rest of the morning. Well, don't know when John will show up. But otherwise,
9 or 9:30, but.
Just stay close and when he comes, we can,
yeah, we'll probably have to be around here. But we could talk budget stuff anytime, but we
I
could,
do
Yeah.
gotta leave just before 10 o'clock, 2 hour late start for the kid, I don't want the
Yeah, we
wife
can,
taking the 2-month old baby out in this
Yeah.
cold, so.
yeah,
yep. Oh,
we,
that's fine.
can take just a few minute break and come and start budgets if you have
we
to.
wanna do 10-15 minute break,
Okay,
that work? Sometime flexible.
Sounds good.
Hey, I had to fix the dryer last night. What happened? Well, it was squeaking and Brenda just couldn't take that.
Oh, that didn't know me.
Oh, I thought it did bother her. I mean, I hear squeaking crap all day long. Only from her. Yeah. I mean, it would never do.
Sounds like Harlan.
You moved up. You moved it, like, all. I did something too. It's worse than that. Yeah. Otherwise, everything's good. Although, do you know if there's any problems like that, like streets or anything up there? Oh, you remember them having any?
I do think I have that. Yeah, probably, I think they're not the front. Well, the front.
Well, actually, I rebuilt it.
Did?
Yeah. Well, yeah, don't put me on a pedestal. That's what Brenda, she wouldn't even go down in the basement. Well, I mean, I've done this before, so I'm not gonna, I don't think I'm smart enough not to blow that house up. So,
Well, good for you.
yeah.
So whatever works, yes, I think I have enough.
Okay.
Mr. Compton.
Okay, well, I'll give you a call. All right.
Okay, yeah, take care.
Yeah, you do. Pretty good. You know, oh, lost it. There
Wasn't much of one this morning, it was sending it to insurance, so that was all. Because then they're working with, yeah, but they choose to have them as far as they want to work with, but they're working. But, yeah. So, that was today on that.
So how you been? Don't see you much anymore. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Pretty good for Friday, 171. Oh, here. Yeah, another guy putting up out there. He was, hey, he's about 67. Yeah, there ain't gonna be many old timers left in Westland after this winter. No, I mean, we got some imports out there that don't, that the apartments there. They come and go, and come and go, but, yeah, it's getting pretty slim in the old timers then. Yeah, yeah, you're. No, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, he wouldn't start thinking about that. Well, and you know, certainly not allow another interest anymore. They call it range off. They wanted that tree. Yeah. Yeah. So here's my point. Yeah. Yeah, she did. I didn't see that. Something else that went on too. I can't recall what it was. That's from last night. Yeah, he quit. He both quit and they came. Wow. Yeah. Well, name which one ain't? I'm telling you, which one. Point a finger to the one that ain't. That's because they shoot them every time somebody starts investigating, they start shooting them. Oh, this is another suicide. How the hell do you shoot yourself in the back of the head? Oh, Jack. Yeah, 4 years later. Well, I'm not saying. I told my son. You know, at this point in time, just I wish somebody would come forward and have brain and. I hope we can. Yeah, really, I do too. He's the guy that I'm supporting. Yeah, they would, you know, like that saying, that other can't think I thought. Florida hates it. Well, he can eat way. Florida wants to take it on. Yeah, he lost the road for a lot of success. Yeah, Ross, yeah. Say, hey, here's where we're going. But he's living here. Gary Johnson. Yeah. He did okay. Well, that's fine. Well, oh, Tim Scott. Tim Scott. Right. I'm gonna work with that side, I'm gonna work with everybody. Or we're gonna move forward, we're gonna try to figure out, we're trying to figure it out. We're gonna do what's best. Yeah. We're gonna compromise, what's this? I'm gonna fight, But it's like, there's lots of guys coming. Well, they're turning it into that. What's turning top? It's not, it's called, what's right for the country. Ocean. they got a lot of tax dollars. But they got. Well, the problem is they're starting to send them, or they're starting to migrate them, the middle of the country. Oh, yeah, you got to find my wife, and we're actually looking for acres. Acres, 10 years ago, they were burying 39 houses. By nice acres. $50,000 and we let buy it. And they think it's pretty nice out here. Well, that's good.
That's the thing we got going for us in Iowa, what's going on right now.
Yeah.
He's the riffraff.
Well, I don't know about that, so sometimes the riffraff are too poor to leave here, they won't leave. You wouldn't have your son die. Yeah. You didn't have that. My wife was and
Okay, all right.
several families from Chicago.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, I do. Get to know them, see how they come here.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah, you got care, I mean, there's somebody trying to shoot us at the gate. We don't know where.
Yep, no, please.
We're gonna do budget?
If you want to,
No, don't want to.
okay.
I think we ought to forget it.
No, I don't think we can. I can just plug numbers in if that's what you want.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, just stick numbers in. That's all they are, is numbers.
No, not quite.
See somebody going on.
Haven't seen John at all. Okay. I'm gonna grab some more water, yeah. Oops, what am I doing?
Typical yearly thing, called spot. Appreciate it. Works. And, I think, very well.
Am I okay to start talking?
Sure.
Okay,
Talk
so,
away.
okay. So, I had given you guys the worksheets of what I thought our calculations would be based on the information they were asking for House File 718. Yesterday, the Department of Management did post all county budgets, or the valuations and the calculations. Mine was the same,
The numbers you'd given us were the
Yes.
same.
yeah.
This sheet.
So,
Yep.
basically, will be able to, it won't change anything for our general, basic, and general supplemental. We'll be able to use it as we normally do. Rural basic, we do have a limitation on that. Our max dollars will be $2,068,219. So my question was still on supplemental levy, because under normal circumstances, before House File 718, you had to be at $3.50 to use your general basic, levy. You had to be at $3.95 to use your rural basic supplemental levy. So I asked Carrie this morning if that was still the same. Her answer was that you can use the general supplemental and rural supplemental as well if you are at whatever is listed for your max rate for the basic rates.
For the limitation and everything.
Yes, so for clarification then, I said, so we don't have to be at $3.95 for rural to use rural supplemental as long as we are at what is listed for the max rate for rural basic. And her answer is correct. You have to be at your max rate. So our max rate is $1.54. If we are at that, we can use our rural supplemental.
And what has to
We
qualify?
have never used rural supplemental before, but we can now if we're at that max rate.
Okay,
Yes, I'm confused because they put limits on everything and now you can go to rural basic and use the supplemental before you even hit the, it's just.
Well, they changed that limit. The limit is different for each county now. Instead of setting a max statewide, now it's dependent on your county.
Get my point though? They're just
I do.
stupid.
I do get your point, but you have to look at your own numbers instead of numbers the state sets.
if you start moving stuff around 100 places, all of a sudden you don't accomplish anything.
But I guess what this, in my mind, says is now we'll be able to use supplemental if you guys choose supplemental for rural, which has never been used in Kossuth County before.
Which is,
Well, we're gonna make it come out, we're gonna have to use supplemental to the rural or you're gonna have to cut the rural budget. You got two choices.
Yeah, because with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
With this, our increase is only gonna be $30,000 from last year for rural basic.
No,
So that's
No,
$30,000 isn't gonna get you very far. So that is, news, and further understanding, so,
good to know.
but of course that does mean additional taxing for rural areas,
correct,
if you decide to use that.
right. And yeah, that's gonna directly impact a lot of people.
And, we won't know how much until we put numbers in and take a look at it, but
Well, I guess the big one that comes out of rural and would be affected there would be the secondary roads department, and I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, but I think $1 million plus tax increase that was requested is pretty extreme, to put it mildly. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
We're gonna have to work on how we can get that number, or how we can still provide services and get that number as low as we can. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're gonna have to do, and work with Doug on that. Cause yeah, that's, you start start adding more taxes to rural areas, that's hard to explain. And even without the addition, just a large tax increase is, that's hard to explain. So.
Yep.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Must be John?
Yeah, John. Yep.
Okay.
We moved through our agenda pretty quick this morning.
I
so
guess.
We are ready for you, anytime you are. Tammy's,
Okay, give me
well,
a second here to get organized.
yep, Tammy's gonna go get Marge, so once they get back, we can kick it off whenever you're ready. How was the drive up?
Not too bad, actually.
Good.
Where are you from, John? Where are you from?
West Des Moines.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Roads are actually worse down there than they are up here.
Yeah,
That's what I've heard.
yeah, they are.
You've had more snow than they have too.
Oh.
Yeah, we had, I think 20 inches.
Yeah, it was a
over
lot.
the course of 4 or 5 days,
Yeah.
so that's a lot.
Mhm.
You needed it though, John. I don't think we ever need that much. I think you're worthy.
It's about time the southern end of the state got it worse than the north end.
Yeah. What's sort of interesting lately, I have 6 or 7 cities that I follow temperature-wise, weather-wise on my phone.
Okay,
And, you know, I look at West Des Moines, and I look at Florida, and I look at Minneapolis, and I look at St. Louis and Chicago. West Des Moines was the coldest one. I mean, it's really rare that we're consistently colder than Minneapolis
yeah,
and more snow than Minneapolis, but we
Yeah.
have been. It doesn't make sense.
right. Well, feel
Well,
free.
good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you all, good to be here. Talk a little bit, first of all, about summing up last year. First of all, I think you all know that we had one of our, what I call one of our biggest victories in last year's legislature dealing with the railroad issue.
Yep.
And this goes back probably 10 years, and it relates to an interpretation of the statutes. And what the statutes had said consistently for many years was that when railroad infrastructure and drainage infrastructure meets, it's the railroad's responsibility to pay for bridges and culverts. And the railroads, to their credit, went to the courts and said, bridges and culverts doesn't include tile lines. So we don't have the responsibility to pay for tile lines. And the Supreme Court of the state of Iowa agreed with them and absolved them of that responsibility. So what we did in last year's legislature was change the definition so that bridges and culverts includes tile lines. So this puts the situation back to where it was 10 years ago, where if you have these two entities that meet at an intersection in some way, shape, or form, it's up to the railroad now to repair, replace, or reinstall drainage infrastructure at that intersection. You know, we've had some inklings that the railroads are gonna fight that. I don't really know what leg they have to stand on. You know, the other part of that I've heard consistently throughout my visits to counties is you change the law, that doesn't, how do you force them to pay? And I know that we have right now a lawsuit going on with one county that has called the railroad, emailed the railroad, texted the railroad, you name it, about a problem they're having that is clearly the railroad's responsibility, and the railroad just doesn't respond.
Mhm.
And they threatened him with a lawsuit, and it didn't make any difference, still no response, so they finally filed suit against him. And that's early in the process. I don't know how that's gonna be resolved yet, but we're watching that, and if that looks like a situation that IDDA could weigh in on and help, we certainly we'll take a look at that. That's one of the reasons we have that mutual protection fund, is when we have situations in the court where we think it would be beneficial to weigh in on behalf of drainage districts, we can do so.
What county did that take place in?
That is in Monona County, I believe.
And is that with ISG?
I don't remember.
I know I've talked to Spencer about that, and we have a similar situation with Drain 90 up by Lakota.
Okay.
With the railroad, we've sent them, I think, at least one letter by now, but they have we've had conversations with their attorney, and it's a struggle to get a response, but I think they had one phone conversation is all that we've had to date, and there wasn't a real quick promise to pay by any means, so we'll see how that develops, but we may have to follow with a lawsuit as well for that.
Well, I don't think the laws, if there's any question what the law is. I mean, the lawsuit is basically just get their attention,
Yep,
you know, if nothing else.
it's the legal arm to force them to pay.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing in last year's legislature of note, we had a presentation on this at the annual conference last month. Relates to some legislation that passed, House File 711, and this relates back to not so much drainage districts, but levee districts, which are covered in the same section of the law, as you know. A lot of concern in the legislature that, particularly with all the flooding we've had in recent years, and I think most specifically along the western border of the state with the Missouri River, there's a lot of concern that the levees in that section of the state were not being maintained appropriately. And I think mainly due to history and tradition, a lot of these levees are not run by the county board of supervisors, they're run by trustees, trustee elected districts. And, you know, frankly, a lot of them just aren't being maintained very well. They're not up to snuff. And legislature's going, you know, we've got a levee system here that's designed to protect landowners. If that levee system isn't being maintained, we need to do something to make sure that it is. So they're doing two things. First of all, they've asked Homeland Security to do an assessment of the levees along the river and assign a ranking to them. These are the worst, these are the best. These are the ones in the middle. Secondly, for the first time that I can ever remember in my 20 years plus with IDDA, they put forth a state appropriation of $5 million that can be used for levee repair and maintenance. It is a cost share. It's not a grant, so there does have to be local money involved. But that is the first time that I can remember that we've had state funds put forth for drainage and levee districts. The other part of this is there is a study group that has come out of that, and IDDA is participating in that group and watching it, consisting of basically legislators and representatives from that part of the state discussing the situation and seeing if they want to bring forth any recommendations on change. The concern here is that one of the issues that's going to come up is governance. And that basically is the question, are we best served by having these levee districts that are run by, you know, elected trustees as opposed to the county board of supervisors? And I guess the long and short of it is potentially you could see legislation coming forth that would I guess, worst case scenario, eliminate trustee-run districts and said they all have to be managed by the county board of supervisors. This part of the state, I know you have a few of those districts. This part of the state is not that big a deal, but if you get over in Potawatomi County, Monona County, and Harrison County, Missouri River counties, it's a very big deal. And I don't think those county boards of supervisors would be too interested in all of a sudden assuming control of 20 new levy districts or 30 new levy districts. So we're going to watch that very closely. I don't know what the long-term answer is to that. They've also talked about making it easier for levy districts to consolidate. They've also talked about providing some state assistance, additional state assistance to upgrade levy districts. All of those things are sort of in the mix, so we're going to be watching that very closely. Other thing I'll sum up about last year, we had the annual meeting first Friday in December. I can tell you that I've gone through the evaluation forms. On that, we'll be talking with the IDDA Board of Directors about that a week from tomorrow. And very, very positive evaluations coming back as a result of that conference. So happy about that. Legislature's in session, as you know. One bill that one proposal that we're watching that started in last year's legislature, which is still alive, which could have significant impact on drainage districts, relates to the issue of those situations where not only on drainage law, but wearing your other hats as county board of supervisors, all those times that you need to provide notice and publish things in newspapers, legal notices. And as you all know, this can be very expensive. And it can be very expensive for drainage districts, particularly when you have, a small district without too many members, and publication costs, which are passed back to those landowners. It can be very expensive. And the legislature recognizes this and is looking at several different options in terms of alternatives that may be available. The one alternative that they talked about last year was creating a website, and the big question is who's going to run this website. But last year they said we're going to create a website in the Secretary of State's office, and if you have something that needs to be published under legal notices and publications, you can send it to that website, and that will fulfill your publication requirements. The issue last year was that, like I said, was going to be housed in the Secretary of State's office, and there's a lot of legislative resistance to put it in the Secretary of State's office. So that bill did not see final passage, obviously, last year, but is very much alive this year. So there's a lot of conversation about, do we want to continue to talk about this central publication kind of issue? And if so, who's going to run that? Department of Management, say the state auditor's office, but they're not going to give it to the state auditor because of politics. Obviously, you've got a Democratic auditor. Republican legislature is not going to give that to the state auditor. Attorney General's office, I don't know. There are a number of different places where that could be housed. And that bill is still very much alive, and IDDA is participating in those discussions. We want to make sure that if there is change, that there is nothing done that impedes the public's right to know. I mean, that's clear. The publication still has to be there. We don't want to say less publication, but what we do want to say is there a way to do that publication which is cheaper. And I think that's the rub. And the other part of that, which, you know, is very much a point of awareness in the legislature, is these legal notices are the lifeblood of your local newspapers.
Yep, they
And
don't.
you take that away, and frankly, you're gonna see a lot of the local newspapers which are simply gonna vanish. They're not gonna be able to exist anymore because they won't have the money to do so. So that theme is sort of underlying this. This may be good, it may be good to save taxpayers' money, it may be good to save landowners' money, but those changes have repercussions. And are they willing to basically sail into those winds to get that done? And the newspaper lobby last year was apocalyptic about, what this change would mean. So there is, some very big political issues there that have to be overcome, but we'll be working on that bill and keep you appraised as we move through the legislature here. So with that, I'll be happy to respond to any questions.
Well, on the publication side of things, it's kind of funny because I was actually at the Capitol one of the days they were discussing that, and there was some comments that were very concerned about the newspapers.
Sure.
And I remember one that responded and said it's not our job to worry about their business model.
Well,
Which
it isn't.
It's
I mean,
not.
it is, but it isn't.
And yeah, there's quite a bit of conversation about who's going to handle that and
Yeah.
how it's going to work and
that wouldn't change mailing of notices, just publication, correct?
Right.
yeah. I don't think they were changing mailings at all.
No.
Okay.
So the public would still get their notice
Yes.
delivered directly to them. And I think that's some of the reason they were willing to look at changing the other notices because it's all duplication.
Right.
It's a secondary source or whatever. But no, the railroad issue is definitely big here. I mean, that's a $500,000 issue for one district right now, so.
That was a very interesting legislative process to watch that railroad thing, because we knew going into the session, we had Senator Sweeney working with us, and she knew that she was gonna get dumped on by the railroads when this all started, but she was willing to take the heat. And we knew that we couldn't run it as an individual bill because it wouldn't have a chance, so we knew we had to run it as an amendment. So your first hurdle is to find a bill that has a reasonable title that you can amend that onto. So we found that bill. We got the bill, the amendment onto the bill the way that we wanted it. And then we were told by the powers that be that that bill's not gonna pass. So at that point, we had to find another bill that would hold the amendment. So we looked around and we found another bill and got the amendment added to that bill. Railroads got wind of that, and in the course of one day, went to the leadership and got that amendment removed. And then we found out what was going on and got it restored. And got it through the legislature, got it to the governor's office, got it signed by the governor's office. So it was a very interesting process.
In other words, they were trying to railroad you.
Yes, they were.
That would be where that term comes from.
Well, and it's not just drainage districts. I've heard from county engineers and city officials that I know, and the railroads are just notoriously difficult to work with.
Yeah.
It's not specific to drainage, it's pretty much anyone they work with.
Everything.
We couldn't even put electric lines over the top of the railroad track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where they wanted a yearly stipend for the wires.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts, comments, discussion, anything for John?
Okay,
Well, otherwise,
thank you all.
you.
Appreciate you waiting for me.
Thanks for being here.
Have a good one.
You too.
You too.
Yeah,
Stay warm.
Safe travels. Thank you.
Alright, back to budget.
Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Marge.
So, I don't know what you guys wanna, where you wanna start or what you wanna talk about, but I know one thing that hasn't been decided is raises, wages. So that all departments, there's not anything put in their budgets for that, so.
Right.
I don't, kind of looking for where to go with that, if anything, right now.
Well, I guess maybe a starting point would be, discussing what we acted on the first meeting of the year with elected official compensation. Some use that as a base for what they ask for, whatever. Does anyone have any different thoughts on that besides what was previously voted on?
And that was 1.6% for supervisors, 3% for all others except for
Sheriff,
7.5 for sheriff,
Yep,
okay.
yep,
You know,
that's where we left it last,
yeah, that was 50% reduction. Just
across the board.
Jack, you got any thoughts?
Until we see the numbers. I don't know.
Well, we got them. That's what Tammy had sent out to us.
Yeah, this
Was
is
the
pretty
numbers.
much the numbers.
That's what we
This is
got.
what the numbers will be.
So do we have, so how much do we have to cut?
For general basic, which is where the wages will come out of, except the road, we won't have to.
We have about $130,000 to work with for the general basic. Rural basic, we have 30,000.
But remember, FICA, IPERS, health insurance, all comes out of general supplemental, and we don't have a reduction, I mean, we don't have a, so it's gonna be whatever you wanna spend is what it's gonna come up to, what you want that levy to be.
We haven't set law on deputies' salaries yet.
No,
Mm-mm.
That comes out of,
The salary itself comes out of general basic, but all the benefits come out of general supplemental.
but general basic is still,
general basic is gonna take a hit with that, depending on,
depends on what you give the deputies for raises, it's gonna bump up to your top on general basic.
very quickly it would get there.
That's
Yeah.
from my simple math.
Yep.
Yeah.
We might not have a lot of other room.
Well, you're gonna have to cut something else out of general basic.
We still don't know what the insurance is gonna do. That could be, we might have to add, I can see us easily having to add $400,000 or $500,000 to insurance.
I know, Doug had said that we are gonna have to do something for insurance,
Well,
so,
we got options with insurance, you
Yeah.
can raise the deductible.
and that's what he had said is we're gonna have to do something.
We can actually make them pay a portion, the insurance.
I don't know if you want him to come up to talk anything about that or not, or wait till next week, I don't know.
Wait till next week.
I mean,
We,
if we don't have
we
actual.
did go, I mean, we did go through that this last year, I mean, knowing that we're gonna have to make a change at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think we're at that point. We're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to go.
Well,
any further.
it's a cost or cost benefit
Yeah.
analysis, so to speak, I mean, with some of the numbers they had presented though last year, if we had had the higher stop loss, we would have paid quite a bit more, so, and you can't go back down, that's, I mean, so it depends on where their numbers come in, but
We don't,
you open up a lot of topside risk with increasing the stop loss.
trouble is, we don't know what Blue Cross Blue Shield's gonna do with their stop loss. What they're gonna charge us.
What they're gonna charge, yeah,
Right,
and,
that's
and
gonna-
that's what I said, yeah,
It's
you
gonna
know,
make your determination on what you do for stop loss.
yeah, it depends on how
And then
hard they
that's-
charge.
That's gonna come back and tell you what you're gonna do for deductibles.
But with the previous years, if we had had higher stop loss limits, we would have paid more.
Right.
So, I mean, they're doing their calculations based on what they expect to pay and stuff, but what we've actually paid has exceeded the expectation, so what you're really gambling is, do you expect our employees to be at, above, or below their expectations is really
Well,
what you're gambling.
what I got out of it last year is Kossuth County cost Blue Cross Blue Shield more money than what some of the other ones did. So is Blue Cross Blue Shield gonna come back and say, okay, your stop loss is wrong, or your premium's wrong?
Well, they'll raise their admin charges, I'm sure,
They'll do that.
which cover the stop loss.
Yeah,
But-
they're gonna do that anyhow, percentage.
But the question is whether it's an advantage to us to change it or not. And if they raise their book of business by the average, if we are higher than the average for expenditures, it's not a benefit to drop it.
No, well, the last 2 years we cost them money, so I look for them to come back and say, okay.
Yeah.
Hi Doug.
Hey, Doug.
Are you closed or?
No, we're not.
Is
close.
John Torbert in yet?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah,
just
he
in.
just left.
Okay, I was just gonna listen there.
Oh,
Okay, thank you.
So,
So until you hear that, you're
it's,
not gonna know what supplementals you gave.
no,
wait until.
but that's on supplemental, so it's not as much of an impact on
No,
employee wages, it's still an overall piece of the budget, but
Can we plug the numbers in the way we have it set now and see where we're at?
if you give me guidance, I know different departments have asked for different things as far as deputies, and so if you tell me what you want me to put in, I sure can.
Should we just go through
Yeah, could we do that?
each thing?
Yeah.
I don't care if we do it alphabetically or
Yeah,
what, but
I don't,
just,
if
Go
you,
through each department and see
Yeah.
what they ask and what you're really gonna give, 'cause
Yeah.
otherwise you're not gonna know anything.
and then we
Yeah.
can plug in those numbers and
Where's
see,
it
okay,
see?
here's where we're at.
Yeah.
and-
let's
Yeah.
just start at the top so we're not flipping back and forth.
Yep,
I gotta run, so.
okay.
Okay, are you coming back after you bring him to school?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know, so.
okay, so if we start with ambulance,
Which
Well,
we
we
haven't
don't-
gotten that budget
No.
yet.
We don't have anything
Okay.
because you just got numbers, so
yeah, okay,
we'll have to deal with Phil. Annex, which I didn't have anything in my notes there.
That was the exact same as last year.
the annex, yeah,
Assessor has their own, that's separate conference board and we'll have
yeah,
to do some stuff there.
Attorney.
I got lots of notes here.
Yep,
Yep, me too.
so this is, one of the big ones is potential job description.
And you're gonna have to do something for Cinnamon because she is not listed on that.
Yep,
So where are you starting?
attorney.
Attorney,
Yeah, he wanted to, there was three things, 'cause there was no changes except for, asking for a change in Deb's, salary for a portion of the year that she would have left. And then creating a new classification for a victim witness coordinator, for Cinnamon, which is what the job description gave us, and then, what was, oh, and wanted to hire a part-time part-time person, work 20 hours a week, half-time, yep.
So he wanted to keep that part-time after he
Yeah.
replaces Dave, he wants to.
Yes. Yeah.
No, I'm not all of that. But Todd can go full-time if he wants to. We cut him back from full-time to half-time, if he wants, if he can't get it all done, he should work here full-time and give up his private practice.
Do you wanna have him come up for discussions on this and see if he's
No,
available?
I'm just giving my opinion.
Okay. Well,
We don't need to hire more people.
I don't think the position he's asking for is something that more of his time would change. Because he's asking for a legal secretary, not another attorney. You got any thoughts, Roger?
My only thought is be consistent, otherwise you just cause a lot of turmoil in the courthouse. If you give a big raise to somebody, I'm not picking on anybody now, I'm just saying you give a raise of 12, 15% to one person, you don't to anybody else. All you do is cause hard feelings and all this turmoil in the courthouse, and we gotta get away from that.
Well, and I would agree with that, but I think some of that kinda ties in with his request for Deb was because of the wage decisions we had right at the end of the budget last year, and I think.
But then you're gonna start all over this year and do the same thing all over again.
But I don't think you can turn a blind eye to what happened last year and say, oh, it happened, it's done and over with, we're just gonna forget it.
I think we have to finish it, I don't, because we had to do it so quickly last year. I
Yeah,
don't think we got all aspects of it, and so I think some things still need to be fixed.
and that's what I was trying to touch on before of, I'm not walking back from anything we did last year in that regard because we had legal reasons for that. But at the same token, I think there were some aspects of the conversation that were missed with the timeline. So, there were pieces of the puzzle there that people did not all get treated in their eyes fairly. And
You're never gonna have everybody thinking they got treated fairly.
well, I think that's our responsibility to find that balance, and I don't know that we did that last year as good as I would have intended to if we had had more time. But I guess in regards to the halftime position, I guess I don't know how we look at one office that has X amount of staff and say that's fine, and then another department head says they want another position, and we say, no, you don't get that when they're the ones that are elected for that office. If we start on that, there's quite a few things that could be evaluated.
Well, maybe one thing at a time here. I think Rogers has a point in that if you're gonna, just taking Deb as an example, if you're gonna do that much of an increase, who else in the courthouse has worked X amount of years that also didn't apply to?
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's, so if you're gonna do it for one, you can't just single out one person, decide they're the winner for the year. I mean,
No.
it's.
And that's where I think longevity is a piece that would apply evenly to everyone. There was a request before for, what, a cent increase? Is that what Willie and Ron came in?
They
A
want
cent a year,
a
so
cent a
5
year,
cents.
yeah.
They wanted 10 cents instead of 5 after 5 years.
Yeah. And then
But-
to not be maxed out at 20 years, to go to
Yeah.
30, was it?
Just
Well, I
to
think it
keep
was
going.
Keep going,
Yeah,
okay.
just not have a
Okay.
max.
But I think instead of just doing a percent for certain people or whatever, we focused more on starting wages and stuff last year. And I think this year, I think we should focus more on the longevity side of things, and I think you could apply that evenly across the board if it's a function of longevity. I don't know that we create new positions for every individual that's been here 30 years,
I
but
can go back and say right now, you know, they're working 36 hours and the road department works 40 and some of the other people work 40 and we've never had anything consistent, so.
we can talk about courthouse hours too. I mean,
If you're gonna give big raises to people that work 36 hours, you're gonna catch a lot of flack from the public. I'm sorry, it's just, I hear about it all the time.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
and the consistency in hours has been a long-term issue, and I don't know exactly how long it's been that way, but
Since
decades.
before I was here.
I
I've
totally
been
see
here
Todd's
25
point in
years.
having a half-time employee for a couple months to get him up to speed, I understand that. But then is that employee gonna start at the same wage that the one retired at?
No, should
Well,
be based off of the
The
new
same scale
position,
we have,
the scale,
yeah.
at halftime rate without benefits.
So in the end, my point is, it's probably not gonna change his budget drastically.
Probably not a ton, no, I would agree.
And that's where we need to, the idea of focusing on longevity more, because you get hired in XYZ position, I already know this is how much XYZ position pays. It's just, if you're starting at year one, here's what it is.
No.
And if you've been in here 20 years, here's what it is.
And there were people that got a massive.
Which is how the road department is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's people that got a massive increase last year.
Yep.
And that was some that had been here very short periods of time,
Yep.
and someone's been here longer, should be able to do their job more efficiently.
And I'm gonna say, I've found in the road department, that's one I pay more attention to, that some of the newer employees are just as valuable or more valuable as some that have been here for 25 years. And so if you start adding to longevity, do you just keep people that, a lot of times when you hire somebody new, you get somebody just as good or better. That's all I'm saying. So
Depends on
longevity,
the individual, yeah.
there is a certain point that maybe it's good, but to add dollars an hour to the wages, I don't agree with.
Well, that's where you get into whether you apply it consistently across the board to everyone rather than singling out an individual here or there, and I think that's the function of where you can do it.
Cause there's something that a person that's been here for a long time gets, they get more time off.
Get more benefit.
They get more benefit, they get another week, you know, some people are getting upwards of what's the max, 5 weeks off a year?
Four.
It comes to 10% of their time, by the time you throw in holidays.
You know, you just gave them another holiday.
No, that's not really another holiday. It's
We-
the
they've had
history
it
shows
before.
that's been how it's been implemented. That's not really a change. Yes,
I'm in favor of focusing more on the longevity, I just am, just because that's the way the road department functions, it's fairly black and white, and then you're not having all these different departments doing different things and different employees getting paid different things, which they can't now, and it just keeps everything consistent.
I'll agree with you, but I don't think longevity should be a great big for the same job.
Sure, no, I see what you're saying, yeah.
But if you look at,
But penny isn't much.
penny per hour per year, yeah,
I
that,
didn't say that, I just said let's be reasonable to the taxpayer.
yeah. But if you give 0 for a raise to the base, rather than a 3 or whatever percent, if you give 0 on the base and put the same dollar equivalent into longevity, you're changing the function of how it's distributed rather than the total impact on the taxpayer.
Your problem with raises is when you start doing percentages on raises, you always benefit the person that gets paid the most money, because that's a bigger percentage, and so the one that starts at the bottom is always gonna be behind, which isn't really what the function of the job is.
Right.
If you hired for a job, it should be you do that job, and if you can't do that job, you better find somebody that can.
Yep.
So when we do raises on percentages all the time, we're defeating, really getting good applicants.
The higher your salary is, the lower the percentage should be.
Correct.
I would 100% agree with that. So, I mean,
And I'm for giving people a living wage, but it should also be in accordance with what the average wage is for a similar job in the private sector. Shouldn't be more, it shouldn't be less, it should be.
Comparable.
Yep.
yeah, it should be competitive, but not extreme.
One thing gets overlooked is, what is the value per hour of that free health insurance?
What's big?
I got a daughter that pays $500 a month. That's $125 a paycheck.
It is, and that's one of the things that affects our recruiting for new hires. And some of that is a generational difference. We talked about this last year, but.
It could be a generational difference, but it still comes down to a big difference in your pay per hour.
Still a benefit.
It makes a difference in your pay per hour, but like the saying, perception is reality. If you have 2 people that are, let's say, 30, 40 years apart in age, they're looking at the same exact position with a different lens, because the younger generation doesn't put as much value in that health insurance policy.
Till they're married and they have kids.
Yeah, I mean, you have life events, you have just several differences that play into that, but I guess that's one of the things, I think, yeah, I bet so. When it comes to recruiting for filling new positions and stuff, I know I've heard from a number of employees, you take away our health insurance, I'm out of here, or whatever, or affected in that regard. But if you look at taking away health insurance, to counteract that, you have to make that up in wages to keep everybody status quo, so to speak. But if you had let's say a $60,000 package for someone that's kind of starting in the courthouse, brand new, salary plus benefits, you might be in that ballpark. But if you take away $10,000 in health insurance and add $10,000 to their paycheck, your net might be the same. Granted, you factor in taxes and all sorts of other things, but you would factor in a bigger retirement. So there's pros and cons both ways, but I think that 100% paid health insurance, I don't know if we get the recognition out of that benefit from potential applicants.
It's $11 an hour.
It is, but the question is whether those people that apply see that as a benefit. And you can't just tell them, oh, you get $11 an hour in health insurance, It's their perception of that benefit, whether they value it at $11 an hour or more or less.
Well, then, I'm gonna say that our health insurance handicaps people from finding different jobs because we have such good health insurance that nobody's gonna leave.
So if we change that.
You're not wrong.
So we're captivating employees because of our health insurance. It's a fact.
And it is, there's multiple ways to make changes there though. It's not that we need to, yeah, go for it. You don't
Go
have
back to
to,
the same old question, would you be better off to pay more wages and have a higher deductible on insurance, and is that more attractive?
well, it's not even the higher deductible, but if they pay part of it.
Right, or if they pay $500 a month or
Yep.
whatever
Yep,
the private sector does.
yep. And I think that's where we could get more competitive recruiting wise.
That's my point, cause younger people don't look at the benefits like the older people.
Yep, and that's what I was trying to outline. If you have two applicants and one sees the value of $11 an hour for health insurance, you might get them to apply because it's enticing. If the other one sees, oh, I don't really use it, or I don't want a plan of that high caliber, or I don't want to spend that much a month or whatever, there's a lot of options in that regard, but they may not see the value in the health insurance, so then you don't have them on the even playing field, so to speak.
You also come to the point where we have a lot of married people on our health insurance.
Which I did look up the numbers on that after we talked the last time. We had 23, 24 singles, I believe.
Right.
So it's low to mid 20s for singles as of last year.
If we are paying the full family plan, my point is, we're punishing the people that are on the single plan, and we're also, by providing free health insurance, you're subsidizing maybe somebody in the private sector that has a mate that could have insurance somewhere else,
Yep,
and we're taking it.
yep.
Is that really right for the taxpayer? That's always been my point.
I've had that issue since the beginning.
Is it right?
Private sector, a lot of times will have the employees' health insurance free, but the family plan, they have to pay a portion.
You pay the difference usually,
Well, not necessarily the difference, but
or
you
most
pay
of it.
something for it.
Yeah.
Yep,
It varies from 25% to 50% of the family.
some is all
And
the
some
way to the
total.
difference.
But
Yep.
but my point is we're paying more for insurance probably than what we could be if the spouse had a plan offered at her place or his place
Yep.
and they took it.
If you have spouse one that works here and spouse two that works somewhere else, and both employers paid 100% of single plans, they could both be separate. That's what you're saying.
Right, and it shouldn't be that way, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, if it's a married couple that has had kids and the kids are out of the house and they just need two single plans, that would cover all their needs. I mean, if you
Insurance is
got
complicated.
kids, you got dependents and all that too, but, you could still give them the option to purchase the family plan,
Well, you
but,
have to, that's just,
yeah, I mean, it's still an option, you're not taking that away from them, but you counteract the health insurance expense with wages, because if you take away benefit they currently have, you kinda have to make that up on the backside.
just take the $11 an hour, if you made them pay for the family plan, you could give everybody a raise of $5 an hour, and that'd all be the same money.
Pretty much, or
In
probably
the end, it's the same money, that's all I'm saying.
fairly close.
Just a matter of whether you want the employee deciding how to use it or the county deciding how to use it at that point. I mean, really, they can set aside $500 a month to health insurance off of their wage, or
Well,
the
and-
county can take that out.
Yep.
Well,
And if
you
we, I
change
don't,
the insurance, I'm not saying we're gonna do it this year, but you think about it in the future.
well, this year we gotta deal with the budget in general, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I wouldn't say it's off the table for this year.
$0 deductible is just about non-existent.
We don't have zero.
I mean, $0 pay. I'm
Pay
sorry,
per
I
month.
misspoke.
Yep, yep.
It's non-existing,
Yep, there's not many. There's a few, but there's not many.
and our deductible is quite low.
Yep. 500, 1,000. Yeah, I mean, that's, well, and actually, last year's numbers for health insurance wouldn't even have the ambulance department as employees yet, so those will be added numbers, but I mean, if we have to look at serious changes on health insurance, from the numbers I was looking at before, like, if we would have increased stop loss or made some of those other changes, it would have actually cost us. And that's where I'm concerned about that, because you can't go back from that decision. But until some changes are made, whether it's everybody's personal health at home, that they all of a sudden get healthier, or we have miracles happen that we start doing a lot better than the average book of business for Wellmark, until we hit that point, stop loss could be a positive or negative impact. But if we change what we pay for, as far as single family plans and contributions that way, that's something 100% in our control. And if 5, 10, 20, 100 years down the road that wants to be changed, that's an in-house decision. So, I mean, you obviously have current impacts from it, but it can be changed by board discretion.
Insurance was originally designed for catastrophes, and now we have taken insurance to the place where we hold hands and provide everything. I think there's a come to Jesus point where you have to decide if that's really what you want.
I grabbed insurance binder from last year.
Back to the attorney, though.
Yeah, we got a little bit off there.
Still gotta decide what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
With the ask, and whether you're gonna comply or not comply.
Yep.
So I guess the first one maybe we could deal with is the halftime position. Jack kinda said no. Roger, what was,
Well,
you were okay with that?
I think it'd be fine for a couple months, but I don't think you need it for 6 months.
Permanently.
Yeah.
With, I guess the question is how,
Everybody's busy and everybody's overworked and underpaid, I guess is my point.
Might as well keep them that way. No. Yeah.
Josh, do you have any thoughts? I know you missed part of the conversation there, but
You're talking about that part-time.
Yep.
the part-time
Wants to hire a
position,
halftime
you had-
position, 20 hours a week
requested, yep.
for the last few months when Deb's there, so she gets experience, and then when Deb leaves, then that particular individual would take Deb's position, and then he wants to hire an additional halftime person permanently.
I agree, having the part-time person there to basically get educated in the office and then take over for Deb if they're wanting to go full-time. And then not having a part-time position after that. I think that would be agreeable, I mean,
You're talking the, transition period.
yeah, just during the transition period, and then after the transition period, eliminate that part-time position and just have the full-time.
That part-time would just move to full-time and it wouldn't
Right.
exist anymore, yeah.
Problem is if they don't wanna move to full-time, we've got a full-time position that we would need to fill.
That, and that is a potential, because someone may have another part-time job, or they may have kids at home, they may have whatever else, they may only be interested in a part-time.
I think if you're applying and you're training under Deb, that's with the intention that you would take her job though, I mean, that,
Depends on the
and you're
individual.
going through that trial period where, until you get paid as a full-time
I wouldn't
employee.
hire a part-time person unless they were hired with on the premise that they will go to full-time, cause then we're trapped.
Yeah,
Then he'll get his full-time and part-time.
Yep.
And I don't wanna get stuff put in that situation.
I think we need to have the conversation with him and make sure that that's something that he would agree.
Yeah,
I
and
think you'd be better off if you just say hire a full-time position for 2 months before Deb quits and have her shadow and have it over with, instead of having a half-time person then having to deal with it.
yeah,
Then go into full-time and.
Right, just hire
or
a
do you wanna
full-time
call Todd
position
and see
right
if
away.
he's able to come up?
sure.
And
I think he's one of,
He's 141.
141.
I knew it was one.
Yeah.
Try
I'll
Deb.
try the, yeah.
Deb or Jackie.
Morning, Deb, this is Carter Knapp up in the border. Hey, is Todd in? Oh, he is, okay. Alright. Oh, sure, alright, nope. We were just having some budget conversations and, that's okay, no worries. So, thanks, Deb. Bye. Cause of the holiday yesterday, he's in court.
Oh, he's upstairs, okay.
Yep.
You can come back to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably have to come back to stuff like that.
What do you think of, moving on to point 2 for the victim witness coordinator, changing that job description?
You know, I mean, to compare the position to what the
Compared to GIS.
responsibilities actually are, I mean, regardless of that comparison, just the individual that's doing the work being compensated for the job they're actually doing, I think we are a ways off there. And we did some other job descriptions last year to separate some things out, and I mean, that's a pretty extensive list that he had put together, and I don't know that I'm 100% well versed in everything that position does, but I am versed in some of what it does, and I think it warrants attention. I mean, whether the dollar amount he requested is exactly what we give or not, that's a deciding factor that we can discuss here, but I think it should be separated out by a job description and should be evaluated independently. Anyone else got some thoughts there?
I agree with that.
Roger, got any thoughts?
Go back to keep it consistent. No good deed goes unpunished in this building.
But she was not in one of the categories on our thing from last year. She
Yeah.
was never thrown in with
Correct.
anybody. She has always been separate, so.
And that's, you know, that's part of the issues.
What is he talking about, putting her up to?
the same as Luke?
requested 54.
Three-quarter
Why
of
would she
Luke's,
be the same as Luke?
3/4 of Luke's.
Luke works full-time and she
Yeah.
works part-time.
He
It's
did
a
reduce it,
three-quarter.
yeah, he did reduce it.
Time equivalent.
Yeah, he's asking for 3/4 of Luke's salary. Correct?
I have a hard time
Yes.
comparing it to Luke.
That's
I,
very different
I
position.
really do.
Yeah, I do too, I don't see where, I don't
No
see how those
correlation.
two can be correlated together.
I was having a hard time seeing the connection there too.
I see no connection.
Yeah.
And in the amount of knowledge that you have to have and everything else, your skill set.
I think there is a correlation there, but I don't know that the correlation's the important part of the conversation.
Well, my point is the skill set's totally different.
Correct, it's a different
There's
job,
no comparison. I don't get it.
but you gotta compare to somebody, I think is what he was looking for, and there's not really I don't know if there's really another comparable job in the courthouse.
And
There's nobody else doing what she's doing.
that's
so.
the issue you're gonna run into is what defines a good comparison. It's not like you can pick 15 different positions and say it's kind of close to this. Like it is a fairly specific job that is not duplicated.
Well, then the job should support the wage they want.
I had to come back. Didn't I tell you that?
Yeah,
Not comparing it to somebody else that has totally different duties in my point.
and
No,
I agree
got
with you
other stuff
there,
we're
but
discussing.
I'm not, like I said, I don't know that the comparison is the big factor here. I think it's the job justifying the position and the salary. Like, I agree with you there, but I don't put a ton of stock into the comparison. I think it is a comparison that could be looked at, but I don't know that that's the end all be all. But I think the position is very, very different from most positions here in the courthouse.
But is it really that much different than somebody, than Marge doing drainage or
Yeah, absolutely,
Melissa?
absolutely.
Oh, I don't know, those are difficult jobs.
They are difficult jobs.
I'm not saying those are easy
I mean, she's a
jobs.
witness coordinator, and that's coordinating, I don't,
If you don't know what goes into the position, you probably need to know what goes into it before you compare it to other things.
I'm just saying, I don't know how it can be that much more difficult than what
Did you
Marge
look
is
at-
doing, or Chris, or Melissa's doing.
Did you look at the job description he had put together?
Yeah, well, that's an attorney, he had a 10-page thing, there was half of it was gibberish. Any attorney can write up a job description, put a bunch of fluff in there, and half of that, what's in there is fluff.
Did
She does do a really good job and she's been doing it for a long time. And
Well, we're not disputing that
I'm
at
not
all.
disputing that, she's a
I
good
think she does an
employee.
excellent job. I like her. I think she's a good employee. That's not the point. The point is just to have a wage that's equal to the position that she has. And I'm not saying that she's underpaid, overpaid, but I don't like comparing it to somebody like Luke, because I think that's not fair to Luke.
Who would you compare her to?
We can't, because it's a specific job, but you'd have to compare it to somebody else in a different county. You can't compare it to somebody that works in Kossuth County.
But that's what I'm saying.
And
In Tammy's office, there's specific jobs there, drainage clerk, payroll clerk, they're all specific jobs.
And that's where we always get into trouble when we do wages in this county, is you compare it to somebody that you shouldn't be comparing it to, and then you get everybody pissed off and everybody's mad, because I'm trying to alleviate some of that back rumor shit that goes on in, in the county, and you know
I'm sure
exactly what I'm talking
Tammy
about.
could take and write up a 3-page letter like this for a drainage clerk, or for
Sure.
a payroll clerk.
Yeah,
I was gonna go back and save this.
So if we take out the comparable things, it's still being, we need to create a classification for victim witness coordinator. I mean, at the
Yes.
very base,
Mhm.
Right.
we're gonna have to do that.
Yes.
Then have a base for a full-time wage, and then she's 75%. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so the
So,
3/4 time.
But
Yep.
the base has to be for a full-time wage, and then you go 75% of that.
Right.
They should be comparable to the other two girls in Todd's office.
I don't know that they have
No.
a different job, Jack.
I would, no.
I'm not comparing jobs.
Everybody's got a different job.
I know.
So do we need to look and see what other victim witness coordinators are being paid in other counties?
Either that or make up your mind what's worth in Kossuth County.
Which
Well-
is hard to throw a number out there.
Well, here's
I'm not,
one of the things we talked about was the compensation survey
Oh, yeah.
with Gallagher. And Tammy had sent out the report from Clay County.
Yeah.
Granted, it's 52 pages. I haven't looked at all of that yet. I'm sure none of us probably have,
We
but
looked at quite a bit of it. And we're not underpaying people in Kossuth County. We're pretty well right in,
ballpark.
yeah.
And
We're not high, we're not
I don't
low.
wanna sound like a broken record, I keep going back to it, but there's very few counties that have the full paid health insurance. That's $20,000 to $22,000 a year.
Clay County.
And we tend to get into these discussions and then we forget about that.
I don't. And these would be what they survey.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you're looking at, or can I scroll?
No, keep going.
And these department heads keep coming in and asking for these 10, 15, 20% pay raises, but they don't ever mention, oh yeah, but I guess we do have 20,000 or 22,000 a year in free health insurance. Then all we get told is, well, it's not that important, to a younger person, it doesn't mean that much. It's more important to somebody who's older. Well, then it's the older ones that you're asking the big raises for too. Where's she at right now, Penny?
47.
47, 348,
338.
42
Yeah.
cents.
And he thinks that's not enough compared to somebody, to some of the other ones in Tam's
Well-
office?
He thought she got left out on raises last year, and technically she probably did a little bit.
She absolutely did, and that was,
I'm not saying that,
Yep,
I'm
yep.
just saying that you gotta make,
I mean,
how do you
like
catch
in your
up?
office, Tammy, some of your, not your deputies, but the other one, I mean, their ratings, aren't they kinda in that category, 47?
Brittany, let me look and see what Brittany's at.
listen, she'd be a couple steps off the base now, right? 1 or 2?
Well, she should be right up there with everybody else.
How many years has she been Two?
But you only had a 1-year step
Mhm.
now, so after what we did last year, it's only a 1-year step, right?
here?
$60,000.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be,
Not finding anything.
wow,
Brittany's at 48,598.53,
so she's higher paid
Yeah.
than Cinnamon.
yes.
And
48,
Brittany
98,
is
50?
3/4 time
598.
too?
No,
No,
she's
she's
full.
full time, that's what I thought.
Brittany's full time, yeah. Brittany's at almost 4 years.
Okay, And she's been here a couple, but I didn't realize it was quite that long.
Brittany's 48 at full time. And Cinnamon's 47 at 3/4 time.
Look at the difference in,
And they do have a victim
Cinnamon's
witness
been how
coordinator
many
here for
years?
Clay, number 8.
Probably the same as me, so
Okay.
pushing 25,
25, I think. We gave her a certificate not that long ago.
yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that's factored out.
so somebody in your office and, or some other person in the courthouse that's been here for 25 years over there, or.
Maybe they, I don't know, they said they don't have final numbers yet.
Let me think, that would be, Connie would be about that time.
And it wasn't up at the top.
She's a deputy now, so she's that percentage of Nick. But let me look,
Yeah, it's on the description.
She's at 62,
It's not.
962.
Okay.
Attorneys don't have deputies.
Just,
the
Unless-
problem he
unless
has,
they're,
you know.
unless they're an attorney.
Which is what Stephanie is basically.
Well, yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Is his assistant.
So if you took even that 62,982 times 75%, that's 46,500. So I mean, I don't see that she's necessarily that far under. I guess I don't get it. I think Todd's trying to make us think that she's a department head.
No, I don't think so. He said very specifically she reports to him. He's still
You know what
her.
I'm saying? If you take
Department
even a
head.
deputy at 63,000, that's 47,000 a year. That's 0.75%.
Yep. Which is what she's at right now.
So where is this?
Ain't nothing easy about
Where's this
wages.
idea that she's so far off? I don't get it.
We can always come back to that and let Todd share his case again.
Maybe Todd's, well, because I mean, Todd's trying to compare her to a department head.
It's not what he compared it to, but
Well, what did, he did,
he compared her to,
Luke's a department head.
he's within the auditor's office, but yeah. Still don't have anything for
Well-
salaries here.
So didn't,
So what she's at right now, I'm
47.
47,
47.
348, 42.
so, but didn't Nick ask to bring Connie from 80 to 85?
I
Yeah.
believe so.
So if you do that,
Yes.
and then do the same for then base Cinnamons off of that, that would be a good raise, wouldn't it? So, let me look at this a second. So,
And that was his request. We haven't,
$3,500 to $4,000 a year for Connie. So, so that's
5%.
5% for her would be like another, close to another 4,000, 3,500, 4,000 a year.
yeah, then she would be at 66, 897, 63. So. So then that would put Cinnamon, if you did that at 5173.22. And that's without the 3% raise too, that's before.
She's gonna get a 3% raise in July.
No.
That's not, we haven't talked about any percentage yet.
If that's, I'm just saying, if Nick gets the 3%, I didn't add in the 3% for Nick.
Oh, you didn't
Yeah,
add next 3%?
No, that's at what he's making current.
So it should be 5 and 8% raise.
Which,
What do the other two girls in Todd's office make now?
47
Can you
and
write that down?
46,
57 is what Deb makes.
57?
57, 8, 10, and 81 cents. That's what.
yep, 57, 8, 10 is what I wrote down. I didn't write the cents.
Oh, Jackie's gotta be in the
When I look at the
40s.
numbers, I don't see
No,
where
she would
she's
be at
that
the same
far,
as
where
Cindy.
she's that far
50s.
off.
I don't think they're that far off.
I just don't see where she's that far off. I don't get it, I'm missing something, because I just don't see where she's that far off.
There.
So, what would that be a year?
Well, if she gets a 3% raise, she'll be at 59.
Which one are you going off of there?
I'll do the math on 24.
Yeah,
Oh,
if she got a 3% raise, she'll be at
Would be-
59,513.
50,000,
49, 920,
and but
50.
that's just salary,
Right,
which she's at 3/4 time, so she would be higher than that already. Cause that's,
In the private sector, 60,000 is a pretty decent job for a secretary,
okay.
but I don't know
my
why.
daughter makes that much, I think so.
Yeah. But you gotta move ahead sometime and make a decision.
I'm just saying, I don't see where she's that far off. When I look at the numbers.
No. Would that already be factoring in this 3/4, or would that?
this factors in
That
3/4
factors
at
in
the end.
3/4, okay. So then,
I think she does,
you might as well,
I think she does have some level of responsibility 24/7. And I
Yep.
think that was one of the things Todd had mentioned.
she's on call 24/7, yes.
Yeah, it's not
So
just
you,
That's a little different though.
very different. This is from the Lake County report.
Has anybody ever found out how often does that happen?
I have no idea.
Don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
I
Not
know Todd gave an
specifically.
example of a witness needing to meet at midnight or something one time, but I don't know how often that
One
happens.
time?
Well, I don't know, he
I'm
just was
saying,
giving an
How
example.
often does it happen?
Is it one time, is it 20 times? Yeah, I don't know. Don't know. But from everything I'm looking at, you might as well create the classification, obviously, and then kind of stay in line with where she is and give raises based off of that. I mean, that's,
What would you call it, administrator or victim?
Victim
Victim
witness
witness
coordinator.
coordinator.
Victim witness coordinator.
Yeah.
I'd say we'd give her the classification, keep her at the wage she's at now and do the, if we did 3% across the board for everybody, that would be, what we would do for her, just keep her in line with, raises for everybody else.
Well, and one of the things we talked about when you were gone was whether we do a percent across the board or longevity, because of the changes we made last year. They really impacted the starting level more than people that have been here longer, so that's
So we thought
food for
about
thought.
increasing the longevity versus increasing the wages?
I guess to make some kind of additions to what we did last year, I think that would make more sense than a percent across the board, because people got impacted very differently last year in some classifications or in some situations, I should say. But any other thoughts on this, or do we move on for now and come back and talk to Todd, or what do you guys wanna do?
Well, I think we'd have to talk to Todd, especially about doing the part-time, full-time position thing. We could talk about the stuff with, victim witness coordinator at the same time.
No. Okay,
It's always nice to have more help, but.
I
Whether
think
that's
I paid for it.
correct,
yeah,
that's any business.
yep. Okay, auditor's office next.
I don't know if I wanna follow that. Just kidding. I guess I just asking for Melissa and Christie to go to 85 and move Marge to 80.
I didn't hear you clear down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Move Melissa and Christie to 85% and move Marge to 80%.
And then you're asking $3,000 for extra election help this year,
If
Right.
we need it, yes.
if we need it.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, we've always had that line item in there.
For
And I
general.
just based that on what we've used in the past.
Okay,
So that's not a new thing.
yep,
It's just because it's a general election this year.
that was just all the changes I wrote down.
Then Brittany, you're just gonna leave it whatever everybody else gets?
She got a very large raise last
Mhm.
year.
Yeah,
So right now they're at 80
Melissa and Christie,
Yes,
and 75,
yes,
Marge.
and that's if we give you the 3% raise.
well, the 3% would be on top of that.
Right, that'd go off of your 3% raise. So they would get an 8% raise, basically.
Yes.
Melissa and Christie, or all three of them,
All
yeah,
three.
yeah, all three of them would, yeah.
well, it'd be,
And then that goes
Be a
back to
little
my
higher.
point that you're getting a separation again between
that
that
would
and
be-
Brittany.
Yeah, but she's different because she's got a different classification. The deputies are not on the wage scale, and it's the same as what the other departments, like Nick asked for the same and so did Karen, and that they would be in the same position. They are asking
But
for
what
5.
happens is after 3, 4, 5 years, then all of a sudden you got 1 or 2 people in there that keep falling back, and then all of a sudden the department comes in and says, oh, well, they're $6,000-7,000 behind the deputies. I'd really like to give her about a $5,000 raise to catch her up.
But you shouldn't have that with this wage scale that we have that was approved last year. You shouldn't have that happening because you're
They're
starting
either
people,
deputy or they're
yeah. So,
Things weren't done consistently before,
Right.
and now they are,
yes.
yeah.
But I was thinking deputies get the normal pay raise, they only get one or the other, you either get the percent increase as an employee, or you go on the.
no, you only go off the elected officials.
Yes, you
But
have
that's
to,
what I'm saying,
if that elected official gets 3% and you move from 80 to 85, they're getting 8%.
Well,
Yeah.
that way, yes.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
you
saying.
have to do it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
And some of that, I mean, there's,
That in itself creates a big problem for somebody that's not a deputy, because all of a sudden, that department's gonna come back here in a year or two and say, oh, well, you know, they got a $10,000 raise, and I really wanna take this person down here at the bottom and give them a $10,000 raise because they're so far behind.
Well, with the wage scale, you can't do
It's
that.
happened, it's
Right,
happened
right.
100
I know,
times
but
since I've been here.
and that's what we are getting away from with the wage scale that we set up last year.
Well,
But not if you move those deputies up and give them 8%, it's gonna, then you're gonna have a big, you're gonna pull that spread apart again.
You
isn't there some
separate,
counties going away from deputies again?
I don't know, I haven't heard anything, but I
They,
suppose it's possible.
I don't know about that, and I'm not 100% versed on the code sections, but there is a level of autonomy for other elected officials and the deputies they want to set. I don't know exactly the language on the board's approval and stuff, but,
And if you, remember, if you change longevity, deputies do not get longevity.
correct.
So that is, they won't get that even if they've been here 30 years.
But their longevity's gonna be peanuts compared to
I know,
eight,
I'm just,
5, 6, 7, 8,
I know.
10% raises.
I know, I'm just saying that they will not be included
Their
in the
longevities
longevity.
are gonna come close to offsetting those
So
big raises.
I know,
my question is, why is Marge and different from Melissa and Christie as far as
Because-
her percentage?
because Amber did not have her as a deputy. She did not become a deputy till I took office.
Okay,
Personality conflict.
sure.
were the other
So-
two deputies?
Yes, they were when I
I
came.
remember we shared it because we got rid of a deputy once that was at 85%, and then we brought them two in as deputies as a
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah,
And
And then we said we were gonna keep them at a lower rate because we had two deputies in your
Right.
auditor's office.
Yeah.
But that was before you got here.
yeah, that was before me.
But even that initial conversation, they were starting lower, but the request from the beginning was to step them up 5% a year
Yeah, and
to get
they,
to 85, and
it
we did
didn't
not, we
happen.
did not do that on a couple occasions.
yes, they
So
missed out on a couple of years.
that was,
So you're gonna move them up to 85, let's get this over with.
Yes, please. Then they'll be maxed out. Marge will have one more step left. So to answer your question, Carter, it's not because I don't think she deserves it, it's just she hasn't been as deputy as long as they have.
Okay.
And so next year she would be at 85.
that would be your request for next year.
Yes, sorry, yeah, yes.
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
So that's where, you know, Todd has the most power in his argument, is well, we better bring up, send them 5% or 8% this year.
I think they were
Then you're
started too low in
Pitting
the
up
first
employees
place.
against each other.
You know,
That's-
they should have never been started at
Making it
60%.
worse.
I've never heard of
Yeah,
a deputy
exactly.
started at 60%, but. So there's that too.
If you can do that, you might just give Cinnamon an 8% raise.
Okay with
Well,
that
if
too.
we're not comparing employees, we don't need to be pitting employees against each other here. I think
Yeah,
that's-
and-
that's-
It's what you're doing now. When you start bumping, giving people 5, 6, 8, 10% changes in their salary overnight. You gotta pit them against one another. That's exactly why Cinnamon is where she's at, because of what happened last year.
but the decision and the considerations that were made last year were well outside of a normal budget process with the timeline and everything we went through.
It came out of the blue.
It it was not discussed from December, January till the end of budget time. It was very last minute. There's a lot of things that was discussed at that point in time in closed session that we can't obviously get into then or now, but the timeline was not ideal. It was not similar to conversations 10 years ago. It was very different.
The other thing I'm gonna go back to is that insurance event. Let's say you decide sometime in the future to have them start paying 10%. You know what you're gonna have to do, don't you? You're gonna have to give about 10 or 12% pay increase. Because
Wow.
they already told you that. If you're gonna start making them pay for insurance, be prepared to have to give some big pay raises out.
And that's something for the elected official side of things. They would have to take into consideration at the compensation board
They
meeting.
don't though. I've been telling Tom for
They
years.
do.
I've been telling Tom for years, give the supervisors a 0. We don't need a raise. We're compensated more than good for what we do. But then they come in and 6-7% for supervisors.
That's because
10% for other elected officials.
we're always so nice and give raises to everybody.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
we're
know,
such nice
I know.
people.
We do way better than what the private sector does.
We're just way too nice.
85% is common among counties, other counties for deputy wages. That's common practice, and I think my girls work very, very hard. Gonna work even harder this year because it's a presidential election. I ask a lot of them.
We're gonna do that, maybe we should do 100% reduction on all elected officials.
We could.
That'd be the thing to do, if you wanted to bump them up, let's do 100% reduction on all elected officials.
We did that.
How do you do 100% reduction? Go down
We
to
did
zero?
0% increase is what he's talking about. We did that,
We've done it
what,
before.
15 years ago?
Yeah.
I
And we do
I
it.
think, you three haven't said much, but you know, they've been at 80% for a while, and 75%, and if they're classified as deputies, it can go up to 85%. I guess I don't have a great big issue with that, because they probably earned that.
I don't
So-
either, I've said that before.
Definitely.
So on you three, that's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with them increasing.
Hi.
Hello?
Donna?
Hello. Well, Mark, you guys meeting up?
No,
That got
they canceled.
canceled to next week.
It's moved to next week.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess Doug didn't send that email to you?
Yeah, there's an email from Doug.
Yeah, was she included in that?
She
email?
might not have
I
been
don't know if
included.
you were included, I just saw it on my Donna, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, sorry,
It was
Donna.
just cool to come across.
Okay.
I just wanted to come
Enjoy
see
your
it.
walk.
Get your exercise in for wellness.
Wellness, yeah.
But other than that, you really don't have anything in your budget.
No, I just need to know what you want me to put in for wages.
Well, again, nobody can make up their mind, that's my recommendation.
I'm in agreement with that.
85 and 80?
Yes.
Thank you very much. They do deserve it.
But we might just give you 0% in the end.
I'm okay with that. I'm good with that.
I would go along with that.
Yeah, I'm good. I have no problem with that.
Okay,
The only problem is then the compensation board's gonna come back next year and say, you didn't give anything to the sheriff and now we want 30% again, you know, like, I mean,
Yeah.
and
So,
that's up to them.
I thought the compensation board, didn't the state make that not mandatory?
There is
they're
a,
trying to change that.
Shall.
no,
No,
that's
it
not what
didn't
he's, that's
pass.
not what he's saying. It's not about back to
No.
blue. There is a legislation in progress about changing, the compensation board, so that is completely
But
separate
it
from
didn't
back to
go
blue.
through last year. They were
Yes.
hoping to get it through and it didn't.
They're gonna try it
It's,
again.
it's on the floor
It's
for
back.
this, for
Yeah.
this
To make
year,
it not mandatory.
Yes.
That you have a compensation board.
Right.
yes.
I think I'm correct in saying that.
That is a proposal, yes.
Okay,
Next is civil defense here.
And again, I guess I'm gonna.
Or anything else
I'm
for
gonna go
audit?
Back to the insurance thing, let's say we have to go up
No, I didn't make more.
$400,000 or $500,000 this year, that's gonna be another 5, 8, 10% raise for every employee. on top of what
We will
you
have, we will have to evaluate that at that point in time, and if we have to go
Well,
back and make some other
Yeah,
changes, we
but-
do.
But I gotta keep reminding people that because we've been very good as a county to forget that and overlook that insurance.
Until we have actual numbers for insurance, it doesn't do a whole lot of good. We've beat that horse about 10 times
So
already.
prepare yourself for a big number there.
We will see what next week brings.
So far, we've kept, fund balance where it should be, so I'm not as scared as I was
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
before.
our fund balance has consistently gone up in self-insurance.
Well,
That's-
hell, but
Well, that's the fact of the matter. Anyone, Josh, you wanna start on anything for civil defense, or anyone wanna start anywhere? Or I have some notes.
you got your own budget, civil defense, I don't know what you,
I was looking to see what she asked for a raise,
10%?
is that it?
She asked for 10%, but
Okay.
we, as the commission only approved, what was it? I had to get my folder. I think it was 4% that we agreed to.
I don't remember, was there a motion on that or
There
not?
was.
I know it was discussed and stuff, I don't remember.
Yeah, so 6,000 was removed from the utility line. Cause that's coming back to us now, and then we reduced the raise from 10% to 4%. Reducing the entire budget by 10,000.
You said 4%.
4%,
That's what the commission approved?
that's what the commission approved.
I must have,
Now, that's not 100% set in stone because we have to have the
hearing,
hearing, which is scheduled, I got that written down. Somewhere.
Next week, I believe.
well, in her budget, she has officer salary at 69,671, which is a 38.67% increase from last year.
That's for the grant money. Scroll up. No, there's nothing on the top. Oh, those are the older years.
This is the current year.
Oh, but those two combined, that'd be,
Oh, maybe she just put them in one.
yeah.
I bet that's what she did. She just
Yeah.
combined them into one, so if I add those two together.
There you go, now give it a square.
Okay.
243.
Blood pressure pills are working.
So then do 4% on that. Can you go back?
No, this calculator.
Okay. Add here. Add those. It's 16, 748 plus
5243.
243 goes times 1.04 is 69. 670.
Yep, so that's what she did. She just did those two together.
Okay, so yeah, that is 4% in her worksheet.
And we'll have to
Chris's
separate
was
that.
63,945 for civil defense.
We just did the math.
Yeah. we have to separate it out because her grant money,
Which I feel like there should be a new line for part of that, but for the new stuff, like stagger it like the others,
yeah,
but
well,
maybe
it
not.
won't be because it's out of that year's budget. Because hers is paid differently than what ours are, their fiscal years are different. So part of it will come out of here, and then the other part out of the new line.
But shouldn't that stair step down with the new lines to continue that trend?
Yeah, this is a new line that we added, 556. I thought we added that.
Do you see what I'm saying though?
I'm pretty sure
'Cause like,
556.
that's up there, then there, then shouldn't it stair step
Yeah, but,
and the old one falls off?
well, it doesn't fall off for 3 years, but
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, but that's why we have back to 2020 at the
Yeah,
top.
she put it in one, and we'll have to split it in two, but
Okay,
I
yep.
thought we just added 556, but that might be to something else, so I'll have to look at that. But yes, she put it in one, we'll break it down into two.
Yep. And we can. I guess couple big things I was looking at is a $64,000 vehicle. And, I guess the last vehicle we purchased, I don't think anyone had the intention of it being parked in 5 years. Cause that was brand new in 19. I know it was since I've been on the board. I know there was suggestions thrown out at the commission meeting of, like adding a topper or whatever that could.
She does have a topper for it.
Well, she has a cover over it, but
Oh,
a
yeah.
topper would actually go up like cab height.
Yeah.
Seal off dust and that sort of stuff. I don't know if it would keep all the dust out necessarily, but,
Be a nice one.
well, yeah, probably, but that'd be a lot cheaper than another brand new vehicle.
$60,000 truck. Yeah.
And the talk of the legislation with 29C and potential of a 35% fund balance limit to the budget would with our current budget, 35% of that would be $183,000 is what I wrote in my notes. And we're sitting around 400 right now. So I guess I thought I had, and I mean, can work with Josh or anyone else that has some thoughts here, but I would like to bring a letter to the board next week, to send to the commission requesting the tax dollars be taken out of the budget until we're down to that 35%. I don't see why we need to spend the fund balance away when we can have property tax reduction to the people that have paid in. $125,000 is something that should be probably discussed. 126, I think exactly.
Yeah.
126,084,
Yeah,
What's that?
126,084.
yeah,
You sit on the board, Josh, I don't know what your commission you're on, I'd like a little input from you on that suggestion, cause that's.
Yeah,
pretty
so
radical.
there was some discussion and it was split evenly, people, saying, why don't we look at reducing the tax, asking until the fund is used up a little bit more. So there were some people that were supportive to that.
and I don't mean to jump in, one of the big questions they had was, if they took away the tax, like they asked if the board could put anything in writing as far as if the tax asking was taken away now, can they have it back when the fund balance is brought down? And obviously that has to play into our calculations with the state, but I see no reason why we couldn't lower it now and then add it back in when the fund balance has been drawn down. You could be looking at,
But then you'll have to cut something else or you go over your 2%.
not necessarily,
We can't make money out of nothing, you still gotta have the base. If you take the base down, your base is down for the next year, is my point. Understand where I'm at?
yeah,
So then you'll never make it up, because then you won't have the base there for the next time.
we could put that line item in, we could put that dollar amount in, say, you could use any department, but you could use the board and have it labeled as EMA funds. It'd still be listed, but you wouldn't spend any, so it would go into our fund balance here. And then we could use that to compensate. I mean, there's ways you could incorporate it.
I don't think.
You have to be careful with service
Yeah,
areas
you can't do
and
that.
funds and stuff.
Well,
You
You
can't
can't
transfer from
have
one.
funny money
No,
floating through
You
the
can't.
county.
well, I think spending down,
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'd like a little more input from Josh, because I think there's a legislation out there now that wants to have civil defense have their own taxing authority. And if we can keep from doing that, I think it's very productive for the county to have some finger on it instead of having them have their own taxing authority, is where I'm coming from.
I would agree.
The thought that I had in it is that we reduce it by 50%, not take it away completely, because then that way when we go to add it back in, it's not as drastic. We'd still be reducing, roughly 80,000.
60, yeah, 60,
Yeah, 60, sorry, I was thinking 164 for
yeah.
some reason, but yeah, so 60,000, reduction, and then that way, it'd be easier years down the road to add that back in. The other way that they are working on keeping that fund balance without having to spend it is by developing a capital improvement. They have a capital improvement, committee within the commission.
As long as it's specifically designated for a purpose, you can have a capital improvement fund, but you can't have a slush fund.
Right. So they're in the middle of, they're in the process of developing a capital improvement, project or program for years going ahead. But, I mean, when you're looking at almost 400,000, I think that not only having the capital improvement, but if we reduce our, giving to them by 50%, that takes care of some of it, and it also, will allow us to add that back in at a later date. It'll be a little bit easier.
You would spread it out a little more.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on that? We'd be reducing it to 60,000 versus the 126. We would still be contributing, but it would be allowing them to use up some of their fund balance on top of doing their capital improvement plan.
I'd be good with that too. I don't wanna blow $250,000 just because we have to spend it, like we had with Care Connections that had millions of dollars that had to be spent, or it was just gonna go to the state. I don't think we need to just blow it just to blow it.
Your suggestion is 40,000?
63,042.
63,042.
63?
Yep.
And that'd be a 50% reduction. And yeah, I mean, that would make it easier to add back in and spread it out
Does
and,
that affect then what she gets in grants? Is there anything that has to balance before she can qualify for grants?
Don't think so. I mean, this isn't gonna affect her line items as much.
But I hate to cut 60,000 and then not be able to get 100,000 in grants, cause then you're shooting yourself in the foot.
I think those grants, like what you're probably talking about is like match requirements from the local. I don't think that has anything to do with the direct taxes, but you'd have to have the fund balance to pay for the matching. But I don't think it has anything to do with the actual tax allocation.
I don't know,
I don't believe so.
but I don't know, and I'm not
Be
believing
good to ask.
two different things.
Yeah, it'd be
Well,
Good to
like-
ask before. we
Like
would
with
do something.
FEMA, there's 15% local contribution, there's other programs that are different percentages and stuff, but none of that's based on the taxes, it's just dollars, like it's general budget dollars.
When you cut a budget for somebody, I think it's nice if that person is here when you do the official cutting.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying?
But we have a general direction, let's
Yeah.
visit with Krista before we
Next week, we
officialize
can,
anything.
Correct, because I
discuss
don't
that.
like to do it behind their back. I don't wanna cut somebody's budget behind their back and say, this is it. I feel the
And-
same way with conservation. I don't think they need 8% raises, but I want him here when I say it.
and I agree with that, that's why I said I would like to have a letter next week that we can talk about, discuss, and you can take to the meeting and,
But I seriously believe that you should have the department head here when you're,
okay, well, we can talk on that more next week. Anything further on civil defense?
As far as the motor, what was that, Ryan? Oh, as far as the motor vehicle, line item with the truck, in purchasing a new truck, where does the board sit on that?
I'd
That's a
like to
commission
have her here
decision.
to explain.
Yeah.
I'm not, I mean,
Okay.
you're talking about something I don't know anything about really.
Okay,
so-
we can visit with her
Okay.
about that then.
It is a commission decision too, so, I mean, we don't make that final decision, it's her commission that does.
Right,
Okay, but we approved the budget for it.
but her commission decided how to spend that money
There's,
Yeah,
that's in the balance in there.
Okay.
We can't say, no, you can't do this, because it's her commission.
Okay,
Josh is on the board. and-
Yep.
And
that's the whole point.
that's the whole point, that there's a separation there.
Alright,
well,
conservation?
conservation would be up next, which Roger touched on, and they did have 4% raises, not 8%.
I wrote down 8 and something.
8% increase is requested for tax appropriation.
Okay,
Yeah.
Because their camping revenue is down, so that's probably where your 8%
yeah, that's where I got the 8%.
Yep, and I
Well, concern.
100% agree with that, so does anyone else wanna talk on anything else, or we can talk on those two kinda right away?
You're gonna give everybody a 4% raise and everybody else is probably gonna get a 3, then you've got the same problem all over again.
That's another piece we can discuss too.
you also gotta look at their job descriptions are different from everybody else in the courthouse, so.
Sure.
So you're not comparing apples to apples.
Well, I think a big one, I guess, for me is the tax appropriation line, almost $50,000 increase.
$45,590.
What's that?
$45,590 increase in the budget.
Yeah, and with that being, to make up for camping fees, which was the result of a decision of that board, I think it would be more than appropriate that they make the decision on what they're going to cut, since they cut revenue, by their policy.
That all comes out of general basic, Tammy,
Let me look.
or does it come out of rural basic?
I think,
I'm not positive.
And all their money that they turn back in goes back into general basic.
I kinda think general, but
So, like I say, I know,
If they expect us to hold a 2% on general basic, do we expect,
So just salaries all comes out of general basic,
well, that's most of it,
and then general supplemental, so,
that's for the
FICA and
Yeah.
IPERS and health.
diapers and all
Yeah.
that comes out of it, but
Well, you're looking at 7, well, let me I'll just set them up. With what's requested for this year. And I'm gonna round, but, 63.
we're expecting to hold the line, 8%'s not holding the line.
Plus,
But if we go through a conservation reserve, where does that money come from? There's 150,000.
that's on the expense side, that's for purchasing,
How come that's 150?
there's income to the tune of 60,000 on the bottom side, and
For the reserve.
yep, for the conservation reserve, but just rough math, adding up the line items here for like salaries and stuff, you're over 350,000. So, that would be, out of the total expenses, it'd be well over a third of the budget would be coming out of general basic.
Well, yeah, 326,000 would be on that. Then 200 would come out of, well, minus 50. 190 would come out of personnel.
I rounded, but I came up with 357.
Yeah, we got 221 and take a couple of wages out of there. You got 150 coming out of supplemental.
Well, are you reading 221 for the education
Right,
section?
but you got 2 wages in there, naturalist and office manager and assistant.
And assistant, but then on the other front page, you've got the director, you've got operations supervisor, maintenance technician, seasonal technician, so I added all of them up.
Right, and then you gotta put in your head 150 for the wages that are on the next page to the 326, and you come up with 500,000.
No, I added them all together for this, 357.
It's got,
I added,
you didn't
I
add to have life insurance and everything else?
no, I did not add FICA, IPERS, or insurance. But that's out of general supplemental, right,
Yeah,
Tammy? Yeah, so 350 plus would be out of general basic directly.
Okay.
But, I mean, you got revenues of well over 110. Both previous years, going down to 75 is a
but they had a lot of,
$35,000 difference plus.
they had a lot of windmill people staying there full time. That ended.
Well, I know some locals that have not been out there because of the policy changes as well. I've had a number of comments about that.
Don't know.
So are you thinking 3% as a limit for their wages, Roger, or less, or?
I have a hard time giving somebody 4% and the next person 3%. if that's what you're gonna do.
Well, we haven't decided a percent, so,
Yeah,
or if we'll do a percent.
And there you go again, the guy at the top's gonna get hundreds of dollars more compared to the bottom. So you're gonna get that bigger spread, then again, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, all of a sudden, Kendall comes in and says, oh, well, I'd like to give this person a $5,000 raise, they're so far behind, blah, blah, blah.
well, really, the conservation department is, I don't know what their jobs are, but they're not really behind, or they're not overpaid compared to the rest of the employees. You got Madison banking at 48. Kristen is at 45.6. Billy Willie's at 54, and she's been here forever, hasn't she?
Since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
Ryan Smith, he's, what do they call him, park ranger now? They got some title. He's
I don't know if
at
he's-
58.9.
See the operations supervisor,
Yeah.
maintenance tech.
Kendall Stubbe's at 71,233.
That, are you looking at calendar year wages?
Yeah,
Last year's, yeah.
So that's a
different.
split of 2 fiscal
Yeah.
years.
So you can't go by that.
Because, so actually, like, the 23-24, Kendall was at 975.
Okay. he's a-
So, all of those numbers are half of the first
Is that
year and
split?
half of the second, they're
Yeah.
split.
people get confused by that every year.
Yeah, that's not their wage, that's 2 fiscal years cut in half.
Well, he's at 74, then 963.
73,975, top line.
Oh, 73.
Line 100. If you look at the front page you got there, Roger, if you let the pages in your hand, right there at the top, director is the top line. So 23-24 was 70, the middle column, 73,975. 4% raise on that goes 76,935. You guys think the higher salary one should be lower percentage?
It's gonna get a bigger and bigger spread, and I'm telling you, 4 or 5 years down the road, somebody's gonna come in and say, oh, well, this one needs a
Yep.
$5,000 or $6,000 raise because they got so far behind.
Got any numbers in mind? What you propose for any of these positions?
My suggestion is to keep it consistent.
Yeah. You're gonna give
Whatever you're gonna give anybody else.
$1,200 raise to the person at the top, then you might as well just go down the line and
You wanna
give
do,
them all $1,200 raise.
oh, consistent dollars is an option too.
Person at the top has a lot more buying power than somebody down at the bottom.
His raise would be $2,959.
Yeah, just shy of 3,000.
And the operations supervisor. Would be $2,447.
Could look at $1,500 for everyone or something like that.
Well,
that would take your percentages out of the equation.
I don't know where you find Christie's,
Who?
Christie, office manager.
Oh, Kristen?
Oh, yeah, Christie. 47.
I looked at down the road, if you can't get people to start paying for insurance, so people have to tie the insurance to raises. If insurance goes up $200 a month, then that's, I don't take that much away off of what they were gonna get for a raise or call that part of the raise.
I don't know, if you go out with 3% on the office person, you got 1420.
So 1,500.
She's about the middle of it, and I don't know if you could do the same with everybody in the courthouse. Like, take Brittany's salary, what's hers right now?
Say 45.
47, I thought.
47.
Let me look again.
They say, I think in the future, we might have to put insurance.
48,598.
If you're gonna talk about a $1,500 raise and insurance is going up.
4% on hers
Goes up
$1,820.
$200-300 a month, you take the $1,500, take the $200-300 off of it and give them a $1,200 raise instead of a $1,500.
Well, but insurance is per month, not per year.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I'm saying, if it goes up by $2,000
Yeah.
a year, or $1,000 a year, and you're gonna give them
What was your numbers, Roger? You were
So,
saying,
you know, the low one, at 3%, 1480 on 4% for somebody like Brittany.
Well, and
So-
remember with the wage scale, the way it got set up last year, for those 3 different classifications, they have to get the same percentage. So if they're in classification 1, they have to get the same increase. If they're classification 2, same increase. 3, same increase. You're not gonna have that problem
Yeah.
because they have to get that same increase. And then we have to redo the resolution so that new people coming in, that's included in the starting wage, so we don't have issues we had before.
If you took all the raises at 3% for everybody in the county, added up all the raises, divided it by the employees, you would come up with a figure that you would keep everybody consistent then.
you're saying 3% based off of,
Everybody's last year's wage,
yeah,
times 3%, or whatever you wanna do. Take that total number, divide it by the number of employees again, and then you'd come up with.
split out the dollars,
You
even.
split out the dollars, but then it's against what she just said.
Yeah, and
Cause that's all different percentages.
yeah, so that we won't be able, it'll have to be based on classifications that way.
I guess,
I'm following what you're saying.
And I kinda am too. I would be,
the only thing.
I would be thinking of maybe splitting some of that between like a flat raise for positions versus longevity, because that's a big thing that really didn't get touched last year.
Well, and I want to say that if we did it that way, you wouldn't have longevity, you wouldn't come into the fact because you'd give people $1 an hour raise instead of longevity.
But you can't with the wage schedule.
I know, but you could modify some of that. There's a yin and yang to it if you wanted to really do the math.
I fully agree that higher paid should be a smaller percentage because it just amplifies on itself.
Right.
So I mean, I think we're,
Just go back to conservation, you know, if you say, okay, Kendall gets a 3% raise and the other ones get a 4, would that be a fairer raise? I'm just throwing that out there as something that you could look at.
potentially, those probably all are separate job duties.
Yeah, those aren't on the thing at all. Department heads aren't on the
Yeah.
scale.
But I mean, for conservation, the wage scale would not be in effect for our decision.
No.
They're all
Because
different.
they're all separate positions. So for this department, we could do a flat dollar for each employee because the percent doesn't have to tie with anyone else.
Unless Chris is in with, I'd have to check on that.
Well, if there were two employees that were in the same, then they would get the same percent raise. But
No, I
you-
mean,
She's saying if
with our-
Kristen is
in with some
in
of
the
our,
classification of the courthouse,
yeah,
Oh,
kinda like the
yeah,
office ladies across the street.
So if you give Billy Willie a 4% raise, it's $2,168.
I'd kinda go back to 1,500 as the ballpark. I mean,
Well, then you're only giving them, you're really cutting it.
well, you were saying 3, that'd be what your numbers before was just a few dollars under 1,500, it was 1480.
That was Kristen. I gotta get my eye focused on their name there. Kristen Cole.
Tool.
I'm gonna bug out, cause I gotta, cause we're taking off this afternoon, I gotta.
Oh, right.
By 1 o'clock, I
Okay,
need to do some run, I gotta get to the bank and,
okay.
Have a good trip.
well, I'm gonna be back at 1.
Oh, sure, okay, yep,
We gotta hear, I gotta be here for that, cause
right.
I'm part of the lawsuit, so I can't.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know, I ain't got any great suggestions other than I'd like to see it consistent.
well,
I would say consistent 3% across the board.
you get to the same conversation we just had about the higher percentage, or the percent affects the people at
Yeah,
the top
higher.
more.
Kendall's 3% is gonna be a lot more than Kristen's 3%.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, I mean, that's what we just discussed.
Oh, yeah, otherwise percentages across the board is not a good way to do it.
Well, the only other way to, in my fair world, I would take 3% times all the wages divided by the number and give everybody the same raise.
So then the county gives a 3% raise, but it gets divvied out in the dollar amount is what you're saying.
Then
Or 3% increase in our wage budget.
Treated different.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
Or you could make some other fancy calculation.
well, you would have, I suppose you probably could get close to that because you would have your employees that'd be under the same classification, they would all get the same dollar amount anyway. Their percent would be different.
can't do that then.
Can't do it.
Okay,
Their
I'll be back
percent
at
would
1,
be-
guys.
Alright,
Their
See ya.
percent would be different than their other groups, but they're at the same wage, or they should be at the same wage now.
But longevity is gonna be in there.
But that's separate from the wage scale. Wage schedule, longevity.
Yeah, but he said if you took everybody's wage and added it together, that's gonna include longevity.
You could either do the math to take that out, or
But
you,
to her point, longevity enters into it because it's already been paid on longevity on
Right.
those wages.
Right.
That's her point.
Yes,
I get it.
you could do the math just based on their base salary.
well, that's how you do it when you add the 3%, because you
Yeah.
can't add the raise on the, but yeah, going through and doing, that's why we wanted to get rid of that in the first place, is cause it's,
The trouble is, it's so much simpler just to do the 3%, which really is.
Well, I don't know that we have this simple option as a card on the table this time. Might have to get a little more complex. But all your groups of classifications here, you could take the math like Roger is talking about, apply it to that classification,
Individual
and they would be the same.
yeah, if you did it the same.
The ones within the classification would be the same.
Yeah.
they'd be the same dollar amount.
Your higher classifications would still get the bigger wages.
No, they wouldn't. No, cause you'd take, I'll use 1,500 as the example that we were talking about. You could use 15, 2,000, whatever. Say you do a $2,000 raise per individual, you would apply that to each individual or classification. Their percents between the classifications would be different, but inside the classification, they'd be the same.
Bottom line, by law, according to the attorney, everybody has to have the ability to make the same amount of money within their classification.
Yep,
So as long as that is the possibility,
yeah,
they are able to make that same amount, then besides longevity,
yeah,
then, because on our schedule or on our resolution, it has a salary amount.
yep, so
So that salary amount has to be what everybody is getting.
So within the classification, it would be the same, but from classification, well, like from one office to the other, where those differences are, those classifications, the percentage would be different based on classification to classification, but within the classification it'd be the same. Because they would have the ability to earn the same thing.
Would we be creating a gap between classifications then over time?
Potentially.
That'd be something to look at, yeah.
Well,
That's
If
why.
you-
Bigger gap, I should say.
if you take everybody that's in the classification of, let's say, 40,000, 45,000 and below would get 5%. Everybody from 45,000 to 60 would get 3%, and everybody from 60 to 80 would get 2%. You pretty well have everybody in the same classification.
If you figure it that way.
Understanding my fuzzy.
Yep, I see where you're going.
You could use ranges,
Right, and then you're all right.
Yep, and everybody still gets the same dollar amount and, yeah,
yeah.
that's a good idea. Yeah, I'd be open to that.
Let's complicate it, that's my. I think you'd be legal on doing it that way.
I think we just wanna double check with Ehlers and Cooney just to make sure that we're doing it appropriately, cause we don't wanna go backwards.
Right,
Yeah.
so make sure, but I mean, that, I'm open to that option.
Yeah. I mean, in principle, I would 100% agree, the higher the wages, the bigger the percent impacts, and it does make it,
Well, I can defend that to the
Lopsided.
taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Right,
That's why I'm sitting here.
Right.
it's where we all got here from.
well, is that something you wanna look into and check with?
Well, I think we should talk to him during one of our budgets so that we're all on the same page and we,
Yeah.
any
Okay.
information he gives us, he can give to all of us.
Yep,
I think that would be a better way to do it.
Maybe next week after the rest of our business meeting. Do it then.
Well, I'm guessing we'll wanna have more budget workshops next week.
yep,
The only, the sheriff you have to exclude from that because of state back to blue.
Yeah,
For
And
him,
there's the other conversation on that is, are we going to look at doing the percentage for the deputies?
I would support it. You tell me what this percentage is and I'll support it.
Yeah.
And why
As we
only,
talked
my only,
about stepping
Well,
in
and I-
over the next few years.
and I
kind of
think,
thing.
I mean, I think looking at the information was the biggest thing I was after in that conversation, so we could see some actual options and numbers. But at the same time, the impression of a guaranteed, result down the road is probably something we should stay away from. I mean, we should probably start with just this year, because, I mean, well, Tammy's office, for example, with Melissa and Christie, there was promises made that were not fulfilled. And I don't wanna walk that line 100 times. I mean, I wanna see the information, see what some scenarios would look like, but I think we
Well-
probably should tread carefully on promising raises for the next 2-3 years.
I don't know that we need to make a promise on that, we could have an end goal that this is what we want to get to. But people are gonna understand that, there are, along the way, maybe issues that will hold that back.
But if you say there's an end goal, that they're gonna look at that as some form of a promise.
Don't make a promise you can't keep.
Yeah,
That's really gonna get you.
and that's where we can, I think we should focus more on this year's budget than multiple years, but I still wanna see what that implication would be for knowledge and understanding of it, but I don't think we should promise that at the same time.
Have you heard back from Roger Fisher on if he's gotten any of those numbers compiled yet, or? if he's-
We were gonna have another conversation with him about that.
Yeah, we were gonna schedule budget workshops once we knew where our numbers and stuff came
And
in,
he was
and that
You
just,
sent us one dog ordinance,
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that,
that wasn't much.
no,
um, yeah, so,
funny story on that, I went on to ChatGPT, if you guys remember the open AI stuff that,
Yep.
yeah,
that Derek was talking about, and I had it write a rural dog ordinance, and it was pretty simple, but it was straightforward, and I was like,
was
it's not
it,
too bad.
was it based on Iowa laws?
It wasn't really based on, anything specific, it was just kinda outlining, what you can do with nuisance animals and things like that within the county, and it put this whole thing out there, this ordinance, and all you had to do was just copy it out and put Kossuth in there. It was pretty entertaining.
See if it can do that with Iowa laws.
So I've actually gone on there and said, explain Iowa drainage code. And it's gone through and just kind of given like a summary of what the Iowa drainage code is, what it's for, and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
There's a
So,
lot
I mean,
of
there's a lot of potential for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was kind of toying with the idea of doing that and bringing that to,
Write a solar ordinance for me.
yeah, we
We gotta be careful about that.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's a few legalities.
Right, obviously it wouldn't be something that would be passing, but it could give us, that base.
A guideline.
Definition and bring that to Todd or another attorney and fine tune it, a little bit better, but it would give us a start to work with,
Yeah.
kind of thing, so.
Yeah. Trouble is you get case law on that trumps anything, any laws.
Right.
Then you gotta go back to the case law, this is what they decided.
Yeah.
This is legal and that's not legal.
But, I mean, that's what just about any ordinance or law out there is. And
It's
so
nice to have
case
one
law
that's been
is-
proven is all my point.
Right.
Well, we got 15 minutes to 12 here-ish.
Take a lunch
Anything
break
else we
before
wanna touch on quick before lunch, or you guys ready to go grab lunch and come
I'm
back?
ready to go grab lunch.
Yeah, I got
I
some
didn't already
things
have
I
breakfast,
try to get done.
I'm ready for food. Okay, well. Let's plan on that and we'll be back here at 1 for our,